All right. Well, welcome to the Kids Store Championship here at Mission Board Games in Mission, Kansas. My name is Matthew Orr-Bridges, and I have Nick Jackson here with me.
Great to be with everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're really excited to show off these young Lorcana players and show what the new generation is capable of.
Oh, yeah. I think there's going to be a lot of great and random decks that we've never seen before.
Yeah, absolutely.
So really excited to see the spice that the kids come with.
Well, and I've been really impressed because some of these kids have been at like local tournaments. They've been at bigger tournaments, the set championships and everything like that. And I've been really impressed with the level of play that they have exhibited.
Agreed.
And I think they're going to be fierce competitors if they aren't already.
I definitely agree. I've played against some of these kids. I've been beaten by some of these kids.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be great to see them going against their peers and see who comes out on top.
Underestimate them to your own disadvantage.
I actually don't anymore. I play to a point to where I treat them like they are 30-year-old people who have been playing for years because that's how they play.
that is how they play sometimes. How many players do we have for today's event?
It looked to be about 12.
12 players.
So I'm excited to see the 12 players, but it could be more because people were still walking in during the player meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like we're getting shuffled up here for round number 1. Yeah, like you said, I'm excited to see some of the decks. I know that the kids in this event have been deck building outside of their parental supervision, and sometimes that's what it takes to kind of break the meta game a little bit, is just some outside of the box thinking. You see combinations of cards that you like and you just try to make it work, and sometimes it does, sometimes it's surprising.
So I'm surprised to see how many kids are playing meta style decks versus some who may be on the more hyper aggro sets.
Sure. I think that it's pretty common to have kids, the youth play hyper aggro for sure. But I know some people in this tournament that they're doing Ruby Sapphire Sisu on ice, and that is high level, lots of intricate play patterns they have to get into, and they do it well. They do it better than or at least on par with everybody else.
Definitely see it coming. It looks like our player with the stitch mat will be going first in this game.
Player 2 is going first.
Super excited. Love seeing the meticulous placing of dice.
Yeah. Getting those dice in order right there, all lined up. I like the different strategies where we have all 6s on one side and 1 through 6 over here.
different styles for different people, which should result in some different gameplay. But
yeah. Well, that's what's great about these sorts of games is, you can be playing the same deck, but you can play it completely differently depending on how you play, and that goes into kind of what you decide to play, what deck you decide to play is how your affinity for a particular deck, right? Some players don't have an affinity for hyper aggro. They have an affinity for, more controlling style decks. And they can be a great player in that regard and stumble a little bit when it comes to hyper aggro. So,
well, it looks like we're about to get started, and from my side, it looks like we're going to have an Amber Amethyst.
Yeah, versus a Ruby Steel deck.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm seeing some. Maybe that's Amber Ruby. No, I think I see a Pete.
Looks like maybe Amber Steel on one side
yes,
versus
Amber Steel, yes.
This should be exciting.
Yes.
Aggro versus the dreaded Steel Song.
The Steel Song. Now I'm curious, this version of Steel Song, if it's going to be the whole new world style Steel Song, or the Diggy Hole.
I love the Diggy.
It is definitely more prominent nowadays. So we'll get these shuffled up and ready to go.
Definitely excited.
All right. Got those hands altered. And I think we'll be on our way with our Steel Song player.
Perfect. So excited. Let's see what the first place is going to be.
Oh. All right.
So we ink and we have played the Daisy.
Yeah. Our Steel Song player is going to draw a card. Inking a Sven, it looks like, and following up with their own. I believe that's another Daisy.
It's
So we
Daisy
got
versus Daisy. It's going to be a Daisy
ducks.
war.
Yep. So this will be interesting because they're both sort of taking an aggro role a little bit at the very beginning, but obviously the player on the play has the tempo, has the advantage there. So we'll see who decides to shift into a more controlling role.
So it looks like we've gotten an ink and a Daisy plus a Maleficent.
Okay, so player one is definitely becoming the aggressor here. We got a Daisy quest for 2. And the top card is, I believe, another Sven.
It was a Sven, and it looks like he took a Smee off top for that top draw.
Yeah. So how is our Amber Steel player going to respond to this slew of 2 questers?
So is there ever a chance that you play? Looks like he played out his Smee.
Played the Smee, and I think that's probably good. Get some power on the field. Be able to challenge into those Daisy Ducks, and maybe be able to finish off a Daisy Duck with a Daisy Duck.
Ooh, it looks like we ink a friend on the other side, and we are going to play out.
It'd be really good for a bodyguard, like a Donald Duck or a Baloo right here.
Ooh. What about 3 1-drops?
Oh, man. I believe that is Madam Mim.
Which does give Challenger +1, I think. And it does look like they've also played another Daisy and are going to quest for 6 to go to 8.
Dominant board state for player one. 8-2, lower total. Back over to the Amber Steel player.
I never count anyone out.
No,
but Triple
not.
Daisy has always been a dreaded play for anyone to try to come back from.
Triple Daisy is tough to beat, especially when you're on the draw. You have fewer opportunities to respond.
So it looks like we are going to try to race. Currently, it looks like we have played out a Piglet and a 1-drop.
I believe that's a Cinderella. A Singer 3 Cinderella.
Yes.
So Daisy's challenging into the Maleficent. Smee looks like he is questing. And so a little bit of board control, a little bit of aggression.
And currently, it looks like we are 4-8 and passing back over. And actually has taken away the damage from the Smee because he did play out the Piglet, which means that he does
Piglet
have
is a captain.
A captain on field.
Yes. I sometimes will forget that Piglet is a captain, but that was a pretty cool interaction in the Amber Steels.
This last set did give us a lot of random captains that a lot of people had never thought of.
Yes.
Even the 5-drop Gantu has become an amazing addition.
And I believe the big shift Tinkerbell is a captain, interestingly.
Excited to see what the next play is going to be. We are going to...
Yeah, I think player one is going to be capitalizing on their lead.
He's inking the Madam Mim Fox, playing out his own Piglet. And as I love to call her, Small Child Lilo.
And it looks like we're just questing out for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Going up to 15. And we will get 3 Daisy triggers.
3 Daisy triggers. But you know what? That's the beauty of Daisy, is that she's a very aggressive card that gives your opponents cards. But that doesn't matter so much if you just win the game before they can use it.
It's always great to make a run for it.
And I wonder if this Amber Steel song is Steel deck is playing anything like Grab Your Swords. I know that that's fallen out of favor over the years. I believe that was a strength of the Raging Fire going to the bottom from a Daisy trigger. Grab Your Swords might be good. It's a little early to be playing it. This is only turn 4.
Now, we'll also say one of the other things is all of the shift targets that we currently have outside of if they are playing the shift Mr. Smee, all shift for 5. So even at this point, I don't think.
No, I think it's gonna be tricky. Presenting more than enough to quest out to 20 in the next turn. Especially, I think it's going to have to start with some songs. They do have the 3-singer Cinderella up there, so there could be a Let the Storm Rage on to take care of the Piglet. But those daisies.
Daisy's always the one.
And so now you see what I was mentioning before, where a Smee and a Daisy team up to challenge down the opposing Daisy, but still a lot more on board. Looks like the Cinderella takes out the Madame Mim, but that's all.
Looks like we had a
Not
scoop
quite
for
enough.
that one.
All right.
So
Well, that was Fast and Furious Game 1 right there.
That is a scary deck for anybody, especially if there are any red-blue players. That deck may just run past anything that they can do.
Yes, the aggro versus control rock paper scissors esque is tried and true, and doesn't work out well for the control deck. So, but Amber Steel definitely has a little bit of both, right? We still don't know if it's Diggy Hole or utilizing the Seven Dwarves Mine, or if it is Whole New World, right? But either one of them can really be the aggro deck or can be the control deck. So we'll see what happens when the Amber Steel player is on the play. Maybe can take the aggro role for themselves.
And as we saw with our Amber Amethyst player, there are a lot of times that they are able to bounce cards back to protect them. But in this case, they just went ahead and went wide enough that the Amber Steel player wasn't able to answer.
Right.
So I'm excited to see how that changes now that they are on the play.
Yep.
And they're in danger of things like Strength of a Raging Fire or Let the Storm Rage on.
Yeah, absolutely.
To keep them from bouncing.
Well, and the Amber Amethyst player didn't ever need to be the aggressor in contesting the board. You saw him ink the fox, the Mim Fox, because that was just not part of the gameplay in that game. So we're gonna do some alterations right here.
Looks like we have 4 on one side and 3 on mine.
Yes. That's one good thing about the aggro deck, right? Is that really don't need to alter that aggressively, right? As long as you have the ink to play and a couple 1-drops and maybe a 2-drop within the first couple turns, you're typically okay keeping most hands.
I think that may change a little bit with being on the draw.
That's true.
When you have to find the answers to then be able to go aggro, especially against a deck that can sing and keep going and playing.
Yeah.
It does become more of a strategy game and not just turn things sideways as most people think aggro.
Absolutely. Aggro is has a lot more depth than most people give it credit for. One thing that the Amber Amethyst player has going for them is a Daisy Duck going against them. Not as much of a threat because they have access to that Mim Fox, right? So we'll see if they'll be able to fight against it, as I do see a Daisy. So we get inking a Pete, playing a Daisy Duck.
Great call.
Turn. Yep. Classic turn 1 play.
And it does look like, he didn't. He just inked a fox. I wonder if there's a second fox in his hand.
Playing a Maleficent, passing the turn. And there is some higher end cards in the Amber Steel players. I see a Rapunzel. I'm curious how well Rapunzel will actually do into this matchup, where most challenges that the Amber Steel player is going to do will result in, banishing the character. But
So
it is
looks-
a Piglet, I believe.
It does look like the same was said. They actually inked the Rapunzel to play the Piglet.
Yep. I think it might be a little slow for this matchup.
So it does look like we did get the Maleficent off the trigger.
All right.
And the Wendy that was picked up off the draw has been inked. Oh, it looks like it's going to be a one-drop Piglet War.
Yeah, we got some dueling piglets. Although I think this Daisy can challenge into the Maleficent pretty cleanly. And I see a couple one-drops in hand right here. Although it looks like we're going to go with another Piglet and another Daisy.
Oh.
So I could definitely see this Amber Steel player just questing out. Quest out for 5, go up to 7.
The turns have tabled.
This is the difference between being on the play and being on the draw, right?
So it does look like we have a crab in hand. So there may be a chance.
That is very interesting, yeah. So the Amber Amethyst player has a chance to trade their Maleficent for the Daisy. And like I was saying, they have the option to go a little bit bigger with the foxes and the crabs and the snakes and those sorts of things. So they may want to pivot and become, more controlling of this board. Although with double Piglet on board right now, it's going to be a little tough. Have to trade their entire board.
So it actually looks like we're going to play out the Maleficent, and we are going to have a Simba, but we're not. And we exert it into bodyguarded.
All right. So they are going for it, keeping pace.
Yes, we are. And then it looks like 7 to 7, and the next turn, that is 3 for Piglets each, so 6. They'll go up to 17, and that seems very difficult to try to combat.
3, 6, 8, 10. That's a lot. That's an inking of a Smee. And 2 for a Dock, it looks like. And they're going to discard another Dock, classic, to draw 2 cards, refill a little bit. And it looks like a Mickey Mouse, a 1-drop with resist.
Call him Sticky Mickey.
And yeah, we're going to quest out. We're going to go to 17.
So at this point, what can our Amethyst Amber player do to try to control the board? He has to get rid of all 4 characters that are exerted.
Yeah, and even then, the Amber Steel player is going to go to 19 off of the 2 that they can't interact with. I think a couple turns ago would have been the point to pivot, right? If they had done the crab play, traded with the Daisy Duck, traded their Piglet with the opposing Piglet. At this point, I think the writing's on the wall, and we're going to go to a game 3.
All right. It's so nice not to see a clean sweep, and we get to see the back and forth between both players. It looks like both of them are going to try to run away with the game, but now we're back to seeing, can we get that turn 1 Cindy out to possibly control that board?
Well, and I think that's what the Amber Steel player is really going to have to focus on. They're going to be on the draw, which is already pretty difficult, especially against an aggro deck, especially because they lost game 1 on the draw, right? So they really want to try for that turn 1 Cinderella, hopefully being able to pick off something with Let the Storm Rage on, if a target is available for that. But yeah, I think in these sorts of aggro versus aggro matchups, you really have to figure out who is the aggressor and who is the control player. And it, unfortunately, that is going to that's going to be based off of the cards that you draw in your opener, and who's on the play, who's on the draw.
So in your opinion, what do you think the best set of cards would be to draw for our Steel Song player?
I would really like to see the Singer 3 Cinderella on 1, and then maybe a Mr. Smee on turn 2, and being able to sing Let the Storm Rage on, or maybe Strength of a Raging Fire. I think that's going to be one of the better cards to rely on. If they are playing Seven Dwarves Mine, there does come a point where that can start picking off the Lilos and the Maleficents pretty cleanly. And I think that they probably are on Seven Dwarves Mine, given the existence of Doc in the list. I know we haven't seen any Happies or any of the other knights, but I would imagine we haven't seen a whole new world yet either. So I think that that's probably the deck that they're on.
I think I'm excited or looking forward to possibly seeing the turn 1 Daisy. If there is a turn 2 Piglet,
Yeah.
and then being able to bounce the Daisy to then start taking care of things, being able to replay the Daisy on
Yeah.
turn 4.
Well, and I think if the Amber Amethyst player doesn't have a hand that allows them to be very aggressive, then they are more suited to pivoting quicker. But I think inevitability is with the Amber Steel player, I would say.
So it does look like we go with the turn 1 Daisy.
Got that turn 1 Daisy. Over on the Amber Steel side, we're inking a Strength of a Raging Fire and turn 1 Daisy.
The Daisy Wars are real.
They have begun.
So it looks like in our hand we have a Windy Darling, a Crab, and we are going to ink the Windy Darling. And it does look like we play the turn 2 Smee.
Yeah, the turn 2 Piglet off of the turn 1 Daisy. Classy Amber Amethyst.
Now this is interesting. We now have a Calhoun that can actually come down
Calhoun is great. Calhoun is a great draw. It's really going to punish questing with the Piglet on the next turn.
And so it also does look like we inked a Kita. So I'm interested to see what this deck entails with Kita.
Interesting. I wonder if it has the shift line. So what would be great on the Amber Amethyst side of things is if they do have a bodyguard, a Donald Duck or a Baloo. It would still be banished to the challenge of the Calhoun, but it means that the Piglet would probably survive another turn.
That extra 3 lore could really be important in pushing them over the top. It looks like we are actually going to play out a 1-drop Lilo, and we will gain 2 from gathering knowledge and wisdom.
Well, and I see the problem in the Amber Amethyst hand. No inkables.
No inkables.
No inkables. I think there's a genie and a rabbit.
So we're looking to top deck some type of inkable, and whatever it is, we would have to ink. Would you rather play the genie at this point due to the fact of being evasive and not having to worry about the Calhoun attack again?
Right. Yeah, probably. There's also, the rabbit is for slower games, I would say. And if your opponent is leading out on a Daisy Duck into a Calhoun, they're looking to close the game out, especially given game 2, right? They close the game out pretty fast. So Genie questing for 2 really does push that aggressive plan more than the rabbit does.
So it does look like we challenged the Calhoun into the Piglet, taking 1 damage.
And we will be questing with Daisy. Looks like we're going up to 6.
So we are now tied at 6.
Well, I believe player 1's at 9, actually. Yeah, it's a little upside down.
It is a 9.
So I think it's 9-6 in favor of player 1, and I believe we have a Daisy trigger.
And we do get a white rose off the Daisy trigger.
I think the Daisy trigger might have been missed accidentally. But the ink the white rose, playing the genie, and getting another white rose. So that can push him over the top for sure.
Especially now, if we quest, where would go to 13. So yes, we do the double quest, and
I'm curious about what the card on top is from the Amber Steel player. So that looked like a Lawrence, that looked like a Daisy, and we're gonna ink that Lawrence. I do see a Let the Storm Rage on, so that can start cleaning up some things. If the card on top is a 3 cost, we might be able to double up on the Let the Storm Rage on to take care of the genie. Looks like we're attacking with Calhoun, challenging with Calhoun into Lilo, gaining 2 off of that and taking no damage back thanks to that resist 1.
And it is a smart play because even if the genie goes to take out the Calhoun, it does allow them to then be able to storm the genie.
Sure. And that's fine, honestly. If I'm on the Amber Steel side, you taking the turn off of questing is fine with me. It looks like a couple of piglets came down at the end of the turn, which is very threatening. We got 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 11, depending on what that blurred out card is.
And it does look like there was a quest, and currently our Stitch Map player is actually above 10.
Well, I think there was a... You're probably right. We'll see. They might be at 10. I think the lore counter in the center is incorrect. So that top card might be a 2-quester, might be a daisy, of another daisy. But this is representing 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, if that is a daisy, which is very close.
Very, very close, and especially if the only issue currently is it would take 2 characters unless they actually use the storm first on the Daisy Duck.
Well, they're counting it up, and if they're not questing, I have to imagine that it's not quite enough to win. So,
well, currently they have 6 on board with the piglets.
Another 2 for the daisy, so that's 8. Another 1 for the Calhoun. Oh, and there's the storm. I'm probably going to follow it up with the Calhoun.
So I am interested to see what happened with the daisy.
There we go. Yeah. I do that all the time. Every time somebody chooses one of my characters with Let the Storm Rage on, I just automatically assume that it's being banished.
So it
and
actually
I think that's
looks,
it. I think that's it. That is going to do it. Because of the Let the Storm Rage on.
it was a Smee that was the second card. So it did quest for 2.
Well, and because of the Let the Storm Rage onto the Daisy, the Calhoun can gain an extra lore than just questing, and that is what did it. It was 1 short, and Let the Storm Rage on let him do it. So congratulations to our Amber Steel player.
Definitely an exciting game. So really loved all the gameplay. It was a really top notch.
Yeah, absolutely. Very close. Very, very close. That Amber Amethyst player, 18. That was 1 turn away. You know, without the Let the Storm Rage on, specifically Let the Storm Rage on, right? Because they needed something to be able to challenge with the Calhoun. So a Strength of the Raging Fire would have just banished the character without allowing a challenge. So very, very close. Very, very close games.
So very excited to see how the rest of the kids' store champs go. I do want to iterate that it is a store champs. We don't call it a set champs, as it is not an official tournament.
Not an official set champs, but this is the kids' store championships here at Mission Board Games.
Which is great to have a community. Many of the prizing has been donated by players who have won their set champs. It is great to see that the store does allow for the kids to get a chance to play against their peers in a competitive setting.
Well, and there's something, I mean, like, I get nervous playing in bigger tournaments, right? And there's something that having an opportunity for kids to play in an environment with their peers in a little bit safer space, right? And if they get comfortable here, they might start showing up at normal set championships, at the official set championships. One thing that I'm very curious about, I would love to see Lorcana come up with its own official youth division. I think that would be a very cool addition to the game. So maybe
does that come with youth judges?
You know what? Maybe an entire, those places that kids take field trips to in elementary school where it's entire city run by kids.
Oh, BizTown.
Yeah.
I've been to, I think it used to be called Exchange City.
Exchange City. That's what it was when I was a kid. Yeah, absolutely. So maybe there's a world where we have a DLC youth division. And yeah, we can get some tiny little judges, and
That also means that we may be replaced with tiny little commentaries.
oh, Tommy, oh, that would be adorable. I would be so okay being replaced with tiny little commentators. But for now, I think our jobs are safe. I think these kids would rather be playing than commentating, right?
Agreed. We're kind of out of the age range, which allowed us to be on commentary for today, but I'm always down to play a game. But what we are going to do is we're going to take a quick break until our next round starts, and I hope that everyone stays with us.
Thank you so much. All right. Welcome back to round 2 of the Kids Store Championship, brought to you by Mission Board Games.
So excited to see what we have after our Amethyst Steel versus Amethyst Amber.
Yes.
That was an exciting game that ended with a lot of counts. I know that after we talked, the Amethyst Steel player was actually at 10 and still found a way to make 12 lore, even though they only needed 10.
Really wanted to go for that extra.
Yeah, the flair.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate that. Someone who says, you know what, 20's too easy.
Like, yes. So from here on out, 22 is the game that we play.
Yeah, exactly. They set the standard, and we just have to live by it, right?
We got it. I don't know that much when it's the end of those those Ruby Amethyst matches where you're controlling the board. That 22 would be ridiculous.
22 would be pretty tough. But I think Ruby Sapphire would be fine going to 22.
Ruby Sapphire doesn't care if we go to 40.
They'll just do the same that they always do.
Dying for 37 with a Tamatoa.
Yeah.
So it looks like we have 8 on my side.
And an 8 on mine.
Let's roll again.
Let's try that again.
So 9.
And 10. All right. So player 2 will be on the play. And I'm curious to see what decks we got. I think we got a Ruby Sapphire.
And it actually looks like we had mat changes. Love the Mickey versus Mickey now.
Yes. The classic versus modern.
Yes. And it does look like we have, is that Emerald? It definitely looks like we have Steel again.
We got an Emerald Steel matchup. I think you're right. So, Ruby Sapphire against Emerald Steel.
So if this is a discard version of Emerald Steel,
Yeah.
does that really bode well for a deck that doesn't have a lot of card draw early on?
I don't know. So the Ruby Sapphire deck is really good at drawing cards. And they might be able to power through the discard. Especially as I see that they do have a Popsicle, they have a Flaversham, they have a Ramp on 2. So
it looks like they inked their Flaversham on
interesting.
1.
Played a Popsicle, drew a Popsicle. That was a location inked and just a pass of the turn. We're going to ink a Popsicle and play out that turn 2 ramp in the form of Tipo.
Ink our secret card. And it looks like we have inked the Baboon to play a Baboon. Oh, actually, it was a Fire the Cannons. Oh, going
and
old school.
Following up with Curse Merfolk, so not a bad turn, too. And just right on time, drew a Flaversham, played a Flaversham, popped the pop, draw 2 cards, pass the turn.
Pop the pop. Are we interested in seeing if this is the Sisu on Ice version?
I believe I do see an ice block, so I believe it is. So that's a Mosquito Bite and a Baboon for 3 damage total and a quest for 2. First on the board.
So it does definitely feel like the Ping Ping version of Emerald Steel versus the discard version.
Maui will challenge into Curse Merfolk, causing our Ruby Sapphire player to discard the ice block and a quest for 1, get them on the board.
So we ink a Morph. Oh, we appreciate the Lord.
Thank you so much.
And it looks like
Go
for 3.
Go, paying the extra 2, gaining 3 lore up because of the 3 damage on Flaversham. Pretty good. And now we have a Pirate's Life. Pirate's Life will drain for 2, so we'll have a little bit of an equalizer here.
Definitely a nice way to flip that board from going. Oh, and we sing Let It Go with our Maui.
Maui is going to sing Let It Go. Flaversham's going to quest for another 1, put them to 4. And I think that our Ruby Sapphire player has a popsicle in hand, so they can refill next turn.
So with our large Robin Hood that quests for 4,
It's pretty big.
I am very interested to see what else is drawn off, because it looks like our Sapphire Ruby player has had all of the answers.
All of the answers, and they have the Maui already in play that would be able to challenge into the Robin Hood, and another Robin Hood.
So this definitely may be the Robin Hood deck that pings and also has either the bow
or
or the location that allows for a
Robin Hood to move to for free, right?
Yes.
Medusa, though, like you said, this Ruby Sapphire player just seems to have all of the answers.
I think what's more interesting to me is they've only ramped once.
That's true.
So instead of many players who are working on their ramp the most, it just seems like this one is like, hey, I'll control the board the whole way through.
Yeah. Well, and they might not need to ramp that much, right? Let's just go ahead and reset that board. With the turn 2 ramp, they can get to Flaversham a turn sooner, Maui a turn sooner. You really don't need to ramp all that much to get to all of these powerful threats ahead of time.
So it looks like we have a second Be Prepared.
Another Be Prepared to get rid of that singular Robin Hood.
Which does make sense with having the small Sisu and the large Sisu in hand.
And here comes the big Sisu. Take care of that morph. I mean, Ruby Sapphire just does a really good job at controlling the board. And we got the Emerald Steel player playing off the top.
And here maybe a Maui Half Shark.
Maui Half Shark. That is going to... And Big Sisu is going to sing a Pirate's Life. Our Sapphire player is going to go up by 3 because of the Maui Half Shark. Classic.
1 additional.
Yep.
I don't know why the Maui Half Shark is exerted at the moment, but I think that just made.
I think they turned it around to show the opponent, and don't know that it's gonna matter. It is evasive, right? And 2 damage onto the big Sisu, drawing a card. Oh.
Hidden Inkcaster.
Hidden Inkcaster. And Robin Hood will trade with the big Sisu.
So Hidden Inkcaster, for those of you who may not know, allows you to ink uninkable cards and also gives you a draw when played.
Yes. It's very good.
And it looks like another Pirate's Life was found.
Is that the
play.
3rd Pirate's Life?
3 Pirate's Life.
3 Pirate's Life. That is very good.
Ooh, Helga Sinclair.
Helga Sinclair.
Helga Sinclair is a card that when she quests, you are able to deal 3 damage to
another damaged character.
So I'm really interested in the spiciness of this Emerald Steel player.
Yes.
Especially even with larger cards like Maui Shark.
Right.
Maui Sharks may only get 1 trigger.
Yeah.
Because then you have cards like Helga Sinclair that may finish them off.
Well, and it makes sense because we did see Mosquito Bite. So this may be a Emerald Steel damage matters deck.
So it looks like 17-0.
Those 3 Pirates' Lives.
The Pirate's Life is an amazing card that just, and as we just saw.
Oh, there it is.
Grab your sword.
See, look at that
and then we've
combo.
taken out the Maui Shark.
That's pretty impressive. I like that. We'll see if it's enough. I think the Ruby Sapphire player is running out of cards.
So from the look of it, I wonder if it's possible for them to now control the board.
Right. Well, with that Helga, if they have other damage spells, damage actions, Diablo's pretty good.
If we could have gotten the Robin Hood out sooner.
That would have been really good.
So it does look like with the big Sisu, he is going to quest for 3 and be able to go up to 20.
Yeah, but that Robin Hood, to be able to put 1 damage onto something and then the Helga to follow it up, Very good combo. Very powerful.
Which also would allow the player to gain 2 lore each turn, deal 4 damage to a single character, which could get rid of most characters.
I was about to say 4 damage is a lot. You know, there's only a handful of cards that will be able to survive that.
Currently, from what we've seen inside of the Ruby Sapphire deck, that would only be their Mauis that would be able to survive that. On first turn.
And that is only considering if it's only Robin Hood dealing the damage. You know, we did see Mosquito Bite, we saw Baboom, we saw Fire the Cannons, which they all deal, or at least Fire the Cannons and Baboom deal 2 damage. You know, so combine that with a Helga, take care of those evasive Mauis, no problem. No challenging needed.
So it sounds like we now have a couple of new decks to try out.
Yes, I think I might be stealing this Emerald Steel deck. I think that's pretty cool.
So once again, when we talk about a kid's store champ, it is exciting to see new decks that many of us as adults may not think of,
right,
or have the courage to be able to play.
Right. Well, and you know, there's a level of competitiveness that we see at like some of these store championships where people are playing, you know, the best decks, the most recent winners at the DLCs, and I think that there's less of that at a kids store championship, right? Because I think it's just more about the fun of playing. It's I don't know if it's a more pure environment or anything like that, but I never would have considered kind of this Damage Matters, Helga Sinclair.
And it does look like we just played the Forest, so it does look like we have other
Sherwood
options.
Forest.
Yes.
Go into the later game a little bit more.
Yes,
with
we
it.
can.
Yeah, absolutely. Leading off with a Popsicle on turn 1 for a Ruby Sapphire player. Classic turn 1 play. Passing back.
Oh, it looks like we had a lot of locations, and we do get the Robin Hood.
We do get the Robin Hood online, so you know that damage controlling can be very good.
And I definitely think playing against a deck such as Ruby Sapphire that allows you to set up those combos does become dangerous for other decks, because as we can see with our Morph is able to be shifted to any character, and that Helga Sinclair is a shift character.
Yeah. They got Helga Sinclair, they got Big Robin Hood, they got Beast as shift targets for the Morph, so that's very, very, very good. No turn 2 from the Ruby Sapphire player, but we do have a turn 3 Human Sisu, take care of the Curse Merfolk without having to discard a card. But that Human Sisu, just 1 toughness, just 1 willpower, rather. And I think that Robin Hood could do some damage there.
And so we do see them play a Strike a Good Match.
Is that the third Sherwood Forest into the ink?
That is the third Sherwood Forest.
That is unfortunate. A little bit of a slower start for a Ruby Sapphire player. No turn 2 play, no turn 2 ramp. So just playing fair, as we say. But we do see a turn 4 Grammatala getting that card selection. The best that Ruby Sapphire does.
So it does look like we have a Fire the Cannons in our hand. So between the Fire the Cannons, as we saw
it is,
and our Robin Hood,
there it is.
Take out Grandma.
Yeah, absolutely. Quest for 1 with that Morph. And with no follow-up.
Now, an interesting play currently is the fact that our Ruby Sapphire player does also play the Rush Queen and Maui.
Yes. So Rush Queen going into Robin Hood and following up with another Rush Queen into Robin Hood. There we go. So that Robin Hood did some work, you know?
Definitely did a lot of work.
Yeah.
I am interested to... We do see a shift.
Here we go. That was great. Shifting Big Robin Hood onto the Morph and taking out the Queen and gaining 2 lore in the process. Very good play.
But it does look like a Maui was top decked.
But the Maui was inked, it looks like, and Maui Half Shark is played. So going to start trying to control the board that way. Let's see what our Ruby or Emerald Steel player has in mind.
Definitely interested to see what our next play is. It does look like we have We're going to shoot the Maui for 2 with Let the Storm Rage On. Also drawing a card for our player and singing Grab Your Swords,
Yep.
which also means that if the Maui does challenge in, it does get banished, as well as the player
Yeah.
with the Robin Hood is able to draw a card.
Draw a card, yeah. So making up a little bit of that card advantage. I think it's probably a trade that the Ruby Sapphire player is gonna be willing to make, depending on what actions they have to get back from the Maui Shark.
I don't think they've
know
played
that
too many actions.
Ah,
Well,
here we go. Although he's singing with it, so won't be able to do that this turn. And I'm willing, with this steel deck having so many direct damage actions. Little nervous, it'd make me a little nervous for as a Ruby Sapphire player that my opponent has like a Baboom or a Mosquito Bite to take care of the Maui Half Shark.
But I do also think with having only one card and seeing things like Pirate's Life,
Yes.
we've now done a switch of 4 to 7.
Oof, big swing.
So I think keeping that Maui Shark and then letting them take the turn versus having, I think, 3 cards in hand for our Ruby Sapphire.
It's true. It's
That
true.
does make a big difference.
It's a big payoff if they're able to survive, but got that strength, taking care of the Maui Half Shark.
And now I do get a little worried with us having 6 lore on.
Right. That big Robin Hood.
But we are playing against
Your
the
Robin Hood.
dreaded red deck, which means there are cards.
Always be prepared. Big Sisu is not going to take care of either of the Robin Hoods, but yeah, this is a Robin Hood deck.
I'm loving it.
I love it. Yeah, no, it's great. And the bigger Robin Hood quests for 4, and will trade with the Sisu if they decide to challenge into it.
So it is interesting now to see that they have a dragon in hand, and I don't know if they inked the dragon.
Maybe nope. There's the dragon taking care of the Emerald Robin Hood. And Big Sisu is going to sing a Pirate's Life. No Maui this time, so it's just a 2-point swing, 6 to 9.
But now we do have a big choice. We're going to trade in, which also does allow them to draw a card.
Yep.
And with the small Robin Hood, it would allow them to be able to take out the Sisu.
Yes, but before that, we're going to play Go-Go. We're going to pay the extra 2 to gain 3. And Robin Hood is going to finish off the Sisu. That was an amazing turn.
That was
That was
phenomenal.
so good.
And I mean, emptying out your entire hand and still having the evasive on board,
Yep.
as well as a 2-quester that would also have your opponent discard a card.
Very, very good. Very good position. Dragon is going to take out the steel Robin Hood.
And as we can also see, them making sure that they no longer have damage.
No damage anywhere. Those popsicles do have an extra line of text on them. That doesn't come up very often.
We do see people a lot of times in those red-blue decks where they will pop a popsicle for no value just to get it back with the Tamatoa. But
Sure.
seeing this place,
It does also heal.
now we are in a scary part because we do see a Sisu come down, which does take out the entire board.
Oof.
And we are at a point where Ruby Sapphire is able to take control.
They're going to start turning the corner. It's going to need some good draws from the Emerald Steel player.
So we do see the big Robin Hood come out.
Big Robin Hood's good.
Ooh, an ice block.
Ice block. And another Maui Half Shark. So this is not going to take very long for this Ruby Sapphire player to turn it around.
So I think where the issue is currently our player can't exert their cards, which is needed, and also the Maui Half Shark's able to get back a Pirate's Life.
Pirate's Life, yeah. I think this Robin Hood. All right. I was going to say this Robin Hood probably can't quest, but they're going for it. They're going to brawl the Diablo.
And it does look like the on-screen lore counter is off. It is currently 14.
Yes, I think that is true.
And we have cleared the entire board as well as staying on track.
Ruby
and
Sapphire
it does look like they got
is
to 20.
just so good at controlling the board. The Emerald Steel deck looked really good at the beginning of that game. Was very forward in its game plan. But if you give the Ruby Sapphire deck too much time, it has the inevitability. It has the big Sisus, it has the Mauis, it has the Be Prepareds, it has the Dragons.
And I will say both players did a phenomenal phenomenal
Fantastic.
game. They did an amazing job at playing through all of the outs, but just the power of Ruby Sapphire being able to control the board while still gaining lore.
So good. Yeah. With those Maui Half Sharks being able to use actions and also gain lore at the same time, incredible. Incredible deck. The Emerald Steel player just needed 1 or 2 extra cards, and I think they would have been in it for sure. But I'm excited to see how it does from here on out.
So speaking of some of these color combinations, how do you feel about our new dual color ink coming next?
I love our dual color inks, and I really especially like it. I know that there was some conversation about whether or not they'd be allowed in either or of the colors. I'm actually very happy that it's restricted to only the 2 colors, because what that allows them to do is to create dual color cards for combinations that historically have not been very present in the metagame, right? So we've seen Amber Sapphire dual color cards, right? And that is a color combination that really needs a boost. And so allowing them to have those very powerful, very specific cards, I think is going to change up the metagame a lot.
And I especially think that color combinations that already are very powerful with draw cards, adding factors like the healing abilities of Amber on top of a draw of a Ruby Sapphire deck.
Sure.
Or, a Ruby Amethyst deck would definitely be a little too overpowered for the game.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that even though combining 2 inks into being able to do something, having it stay within those color combinations does still keep the game balanced and playable.
Well, and I think that the fun part of the dual color cards is this meshing of flavors between the 2 colors, right? So if you look at something like the new Bolt, which is an Amber Steel card, it has the gain lore for undamaged characters that Amber is kind of in theme with, but then it also has this banish and illusion character that I think is leaning more into the Steel identity.
Now, as someone who was always a fan of the puppies, and I have collected 99 of each puppies, I am excited for the Perdita card.
Yes.
Because I can't wait till my
More puppy support, please.
puppy power. But it does look like we're going to move over to the next round. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break.
Small break.
We'll be right back.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right.
All right. Welcome back to round 3 of our Kids Store Championship, brought to you by Mission Board Games in Mission, Kansas. We've seen some pretty good games so far.
We have seen some amazing games, and we still have 1 round left. And we've also had some people playing Pack Rush.
Yeah.
Oh, we have 2 rounds
I
left.
think it's 4 rounds, right?
This will be round 3.
Yeah.
So after this, 1 more.
Oh, I see what you mean now. Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. I know I'm confusing sometimes.
I was doing the math on that. I'm like,
But we
listen.
still have a top cut, so please understand.
Yeah.
We get to see a lot more Lorcana today. And at some point, do we really just say that this is the kids? Because they play like anyone else.
They are playing so well, and I know that we have said it a lot about like their deck choices and how there could be some pretty cool rogue deck choices, right? But last round we saw a Ruby Sapphire player who, if you didn't tell me that was a part of the kids set store championship, wouldn't have known. So
I definitely have to say that I've seen some high caliber players, wanting to say children. I've just seen some high caliber players, and I'm excited to see what comes next.
yeah.
Ooh, I love the bag.
Little purse.
Yeah.
The dice purse. It's just a Lorcana purse, I think.
Like, now that's amazing.
Yeah, that's very cool. I love that. Well, and I think I love that the organizers put this together, right? And it's a community effort. We got some donations, and we got someone who judging the main event and just really really passionate about putting this together, giving these kids a store championship of their own, and I think it's really cool. Happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, I'm definitely happy to be a part of it. It is great to see that we have a community that not only cares about the game, but cares about those who are coming up next.
Yeah, absolutely.
It does look like our player with the Elsa mat will be going first.
Yes, it does look like that.
But as always, I am super excited to see what kind of deck we now get, and let's get started.
Yeah, so players are going to take their opening hands. Looks like we have another Amber Amethyst deck on player 2's side.
And it looks like we may possibly have a Amber Emerald
Oh,
deck.
I love Amber Emerald. I played Amber Emerald at the last set championship in the last season, and I thought it was a very, very good deck that some people slept on. So
For your version, did you play the Under the Sea version of the deck?
no, mine was an aggro deck, and so I'm curious to see what this player's deck is going to be. I was doing the same aggressive Amber cards, but there are some aggressive Emerald cards as well, and you have some card draw that color affords. So we'll see what that looks like.
Especially after looking at our last round when we saw that Go-Go Tamago come down and it gained 7 lore within a game.
Go-Go is
I'm
very good at
interested.
closing out games sometimes.
So it does look like we have our mulligans ready, and we are going to get started very soon with
Yes,
this.
absolutely. And I believe our Amber Amethyst player is going to be on the play, if I remember correctly.
So I do see the Rapunzel in our Amber Emerald player's hand. When we think about the Amber cards, we do notice that they have a large defense, but with our Emerald cards, a lot of times we don't have large defenses.
Yeah, the Emerald cards don't hold damage as much, so they're going to be relying on the Amber cards to do that, to make Rapunzel relevant in this matchup. So we do have a turn 1 Chernobog's followers.
And it does look like we now have that turn 1 Daisy Duck.
Classic turn 1 Daisy.
Every Amber player that we have had has made sure that turn 1 Daisy
Yes.
has been the top of the match,
Absolutely.
and I'm excited.
And it's a hard card to beat. There's no answer for it on turn 2. Not in these colors, at least. So we'll see what the follow-up is going to be. I'm going to ink a Cusco, and I'm thinking they might be playing out that Piglet. No, it's going to be the Cusco. Cusco on turn 2, quest for 1 with Chernobog's followers, and we'll see if they go ahead and draw a card from it.
I see the thought of it, and
I think it's safe to keep it, but they might want to cycle it away, get some more answers in their hand.
so especially if they do have a fox in hand, it's a great time for them to then pop it, and then they're able to quest with their Cusco, and it does take care of that Daisy Duck.
It's true.
And it does look like we now have a Cursed Merfolk out, and we have the Daisy quest,
Yep.
which she should trigger.
Yep. I think the players are just talking about that Daisy trigger right now. Yep, there we go. It's going to reveal a Magic Broom. That's going to go into their hand.
I love to see the camaraderie, even in the competition, of them being able to work together through getting through
Yeah,
different triggers for cards that they may not know much about.
absolutely.
So it's amazing to see that amongst these young players.
Yep. Well, we just want to have fun. right? Like that's what it's a game at the end of the day, right? So as long as we're being good sports about it, and we're making sure that everybody's on the same page when it comes to cards that, like you said, people might not be familiar with all of these cards.
So it does look like we're going to a more aggro route for your side, and they have played out a Piglet and a Daisy Duck.
Yes.
I'm interested to see. It looks like we are inking a card, and we are playing the Donald Duck that gives +1 lore and is a bodyguard.
So that's going to be a quest for 5, going up to 7. So we are looking to race a little bit. Remember, the Emerald Amber player was on the draw, and yet is being a little more aggressive. So might be able to swing the tempo back in their favor a little bit more.
And she does make sure that card is in bodyguard mode to protect that cursed merfolk.
And the Daisy, if there is a Madame M Fox, it's gonna be a little tricky to be able to take care of that Daisy through the bodyguard.
Especially right now, you would have to trade in your Piglet plus an additional card just to take out that Donald Duck.
Well, and I got to remember, we do have a Cusco on the field, so it's not exactly preferable to trade into it, but it does replace itself. So, but we got a turn 4 goat, going to gain a lore from that, and it looks like Piglet is going to be questing for 3.
So we'll be going up to 5.
Should be 6 with the goat, I believe.
Wow.
We'll see.
And then one
more.
for a goat.
Oh. All right. I think that Cusco also quested.
There we go.
Yes. And we'll make sure to get those lore totals correct, just to make sure that everything has been accounted for. So that goat, actually, the Amber Amethyst opens up a lot of opportunities that the Emerald version doesn't quite get to be able to challenge into a Daisy Duck, right? They have Mim Foxes, they have these goats that will be able to challenge in profitably to the Daisy Duck. I don't know that the Emerald version really has those sorts of things. They're going to have to kind of team up with other characters if they want to try to get rid of a Daisy Duck. So I think that's why the Amber Emerald player is taking the aggressive line, because that is kind of what their deck is made to do.
So I'm also interested to see what cards. So we now have a new Lilo.
And just questing out. It looks like it's a quest for 5.
Which does make the other player have to take a turn off of questing to answer, which does allow them to get a chance to be able to play more cards to in turn answer what they need.
Well, because right now it looks like there is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lore on board for our Amethyst player. Just gonna play out everything. So that's 2 from Gathering Knowledge, and then we got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more, which does not quite put them to 20, I don't think. But we have 2, 4, 6, 7 on the Emerald side, which again does not put them to 20. So,
but we do have cards like Donald Duck and Chip.
Yes, Donald Duck,
possibly
Chip, good job. The surprise lore, absolutely.
So we did get the trigger off of the Daisy Duck.
Didn't quite catch what it was.
It looked to be a 2-drop Lilo.
Okay. Definitely good if the game goes long, but I think we're winding down to the last couple turns here. And I believe we did quest out, so that appears to be game 1. These, this is the second round that we've seen like this aggro mirror match, so to speak. Round 1 we saw Amber Amethyst against Amber Steel, and now we're seeing a Emerald variant on the aggro deck. And it's very interesting navigating a mirror match like that because there's a lot of moving parts. You got to be able to, if you've built your deck in an aggressive way to be able to go underneath your opponent, but then your opponent also did that, you got to figure out who is actually going to be the aggressor in the matchup. One of the biggest sort of level up moments that I had from card games in general is determining which one of you is the aggro deck, which one of you is the control deck. Even if you are supposed to be the aggro deck, sometimes the cards just don't get drawn that way. And you got to be able to manage your opponent's board.
And I think that makes a great point. Many a times we have to think about the fact that cards don't always come in the correct order.
Right.
And it does change your entire strategy, and just making sure that your deck is versatile enough that when it needs to go away from the aggro, that it's able to take charge in controlling the board long enough for you then to be able to continue that play.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's the decision between Amethyst and Emerald when you're building an aggro deck, right? Where Amethyst does a very good job. It is very easy to go bigger. Emerald can't go quite as big as fast as Amethyst can. But what Emerald does allow you to do is say that you are the aggro deck. It forces your opponent to be the control deck. We saw our Emerald player on the draw take that role from the person who is on the play, right? And I think with just one or two cards that were swapped out into a different order or drawn, earlier, the Emerald player absolutely could have won that first game.
I definitely agree with you, and it's going to be interesting to see how it changes with our Emerald player now on the play.
On the play, yeah.
And being able to really take charge and take off with that, and then also seeing what answers our Amethyst player will be able to come back with.
Yeah.
I know a lot of it is really going to be the strategy and thinking through what is our next play. And I'm super excited to see where this goes.
Absolutely.
So we do see the ink of the Go-Go Tamago, and then we do play out our Lilo.
Yep. Looks like our Amethyst player is going to be inking a library. And we'll see what their turn one is. Are we going to see the classic Daisy Duck? Looks like a Daisy was the draw for the turn. But we might see dueling Lilos.
Dual Lilos.
Yes.
I am waiting to see what is played next. It does look like we inked the Kita, so that is interesting.
Yes.
So it does look like they may actually play the Under the Sea with the Kita.
That is very interesting. It might not be. This might be a less aggressive version. Kita, the Shift Kita is also just a very good anti-aggro card, right? Or an anti-challenge card, right? So it could just be kind of an insurance policy at the very top end, the last few turns of the game. You shift Kita and you say, you're not going to make any headway challenging me.
So with the Shift Kita, for those of you who don't know, Kita is a 5-drop. It shifts for 3. And whenever you play this character, all characters get -3 attack until the start of your next turn. It also quests for 2.
Yeah, -3 is a lot. Especially in this matchup, it's basically going to shut down most characters' strength, right? So you're free to just quest without fear of reprisal. Oh, hello there.
Hi, friend. I do love that many of them have not gotten a chance to play on camera, and this is a great time for them to be able to experience something.
You know what? We can't tell.
Yeah.
Can't tell. They're there, they're playing, and I think they're doing really well.
I think the most nerve-wracking thing for me in this entire thing is just remembering that I have to track lore twice.
Right. Well, and that's what I was chatting with some people in between the rounds, and it's just, you know what? Focus on your game. Focus on playing. Don't worry about the stream. We'll be able to cover it. That's going to be our job. But so it does look like the Emerald player is again turning a little aggressive, questing with Lilo, questing with Piglet, following up with 2-drop Lilo. We have 2 Lilos on the Amethyst side, and I believe a Daisy. So they're doing the 1-drop, 1-drop, 1-drop plan. So we'll see what their follow-up is going to be on this turn 3.
So I am interested with
2
them
more
having the ooh. We go wide.
So that's 2, 4, 6, going to 8 with a daisy trigger.
Let's see what we get off the daisy trigger. And it looks like the bodyguard Donald Duck
Very,
was
very
off the daisy
good.
trigger.
None of the Amethyst players' characters right now have 3 power. So unless they're holding it like a fox, that Donald Duck is going to be a huge roadblock. So that's 2, 4, 6, 7, 8.
8.
Oof.
Which now, if there is no answer for this Donald Duck, it does look like there's the possibility of our
Yeah.
Emerald player taking this with a Piglet on board to quest for 3. They are currently going for 8 again.
Another
next
8.
turn.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to need an answer. The Amethyst player can use the Piglet and a Lilo to trade with the Donald Duck, and then they can challenge the Lilo with their Daisy Duck. So they can chip away at this board, but it is definitely very, very scary to be on that side of things.
So it does look like we paid the Gathering Knowledge and Wisdom, as well as the Maleficent.
The 2/2 for 2 that quests for 2. Pretty good. So now it just depends on what we're doing. So it looks like we're going to be questing with the Lilo and Daisy for 4. Another 1 from Diablo. And another 1 from Broom, but I think our Emerald player just has it on board.
Which I do understand with our 0-1 Diablo, it doesn't do damage.
Yeah.
And additionally, we are only able to take out 1 additional character, and we have to trade our entire board into it.
Definitely a tricky position.
Definitely a tricky position to be in.
I would not want to have to trade my Lilo and Piglet for a single Donald Duck, right? So definitely understandable. But I think, unless we've done our math wrong, we got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Which it is great to think about the fact that a card that is a 2/3 with Bodyguard is such a powerful card in an aggro versus aggro match.
Yeah.
And being able to take away 5 lore,
Yeah.
possibly just to take care of the 1 single lore.
Very, very good. Very, very impactful. Like that extra point of willpower, insane. And that'll do it. That is game number 2 going to our Amber Emerald player. So we are all tied up.
Definitely.
Very cool.
So I'm definitely waiting to see how this change is going to come about with our game 3.
Yeah. Well, and that's what we were talking about before game 2, right? Which is the Amber Emerald deck kind of wants to be more aggressive, right? It is not as capable of defending or controlling the board as the Amethyst variant is. And when the Emerald variant is on the play, it is going to be more aggressive, and it got the job done pretty convincingly.
Definitely did, and now we're going in for our cuts. Overall, it has been a great experience seeing these young Lorcana, young Illumineers.
Lumineers,
Yes.
yes.
I love that word. It is great to see them playing, and I definitely cannot wait to see what happens with next set and to see some of these decks with their dual colored ink.
Yes, I think the dual color ink is really going to, I know that I get kind of enchanted, if you forgive the pun, by certain cards where I'm just kind of like, I really love this card. I really want to build the deck around. I really want to make it work. The dual color cards are going to make that feeling even worse, right? Because it's going to say, oh man, I really want to make this Perdita, this yellow-blue Perdido work. And now I have to do yellow-blue, which is not historically a very common color pair, And so, and I think, we've seen some really interesting decks today that I'm convinced that these kids are gonna break the meta someday. They're gonna come up with something, and we're gonna look at it and be like, oh my god, that's actually really good. Like, that's insane. Like, I'm gonna play that.
So I'm also excited to see what enchanteds end up coming out of the new set.
Yes.
Especially seeing beautiful cards like Cinderella's Slipper. Mm-hmm. I know we've had multiple Cinderella cards that have been up for enchanteds, including the 1-drop 1/2 Cinderella.
Ballroom Sensation.
She is a beautiful card.
Gorgeous.
But just to have her slippers to go with her as well, très magnifique.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll see. Have we seen a Prince enchanted yet?
So Aladdin technically is. I have to look if he is a prince in our set.
He might be a prince.
He's a prince at some point.
He's a prince.
He does marry a princess, which makes him a king.
A sultan.
Sultan.
He was sultan. Remember?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Well, he's Prince Ali.
It's Prince Ali.
We have to remember Genie did wish him to be a prince.
It's true, but not in. But that's a Floodborn version. All rules are thrown out with Floodborn versions.
Which was such a great set. I am looking forward to some of these nostalgic tournaments. Mm-hmm. I know here in Kansas City, we will be having a set 1 tournament tomorrow.
We're doing a throwback. We're going back to set 1 meta. Not a lot of players have been able to do. We're able to play in set 1, right? Because it was the start of the game. And so it'll be very interesting.
So it is exciting, but let's get back to our current match in progress.
Yes.
And it looks like the mulligans have been done, and we are getting ready for our first ink.
And I do see a daisy over there, so I wonder if we're gonna see a turn 1 daisy again. Looks like we might be inking that goat. 4 cost, a little expensive for this point in the game, and especially against an aggro deck, you might not get there. We saw in round 1, we saw triple daisies. We saw daisy, 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 and I don't know that a 4-cost goat is going to be fast enough.
We've also seen daisy, 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 1-drop plus
so
a
many
piglet.
Daisies. So that is a inking of a Maleficent, playing that daisy, and passing the turn.
And so it does look like we got a Rapunzel off the top deck. We are going to ink a Hidden Cove, and we are going to play the Cursed Merfolk.
Cursed Merfolk, very good. Getting rid of an aggro player's cards is definitely a cost. So we'll see if our Amethyst player plays into that at all. We're going to ink a library.
I do like the benefits for your Amethyst player in the fact that they do have multiple draw options.
Yes.
With things such as Friends on the Other Side, to make sure that hand stays replenished.
Absolutely.
And cards that can also sing them.
Well, and just card advantage in other ways, like this 2-drop Lilo that they just played, that can be recurred from the discard pile in case it ever gets challenged and banished. Just another way for aggro decks to gain any sort of card advantage, which is historically the way that aggro decks lose, is by running out of cards.
So I do also see that we got the Baloo off of the trigger, and
Very
Baloo being a 0/3 bodyguard that when banished, you gain 2 lords.
Very
Such
good.
a powerful card.
Yeah, and a lot of control that you have as the player with Baloo. So we'll see an inking of a Clarabelle, big Clarabelle, playing a Piglet, questing for 2 with the Cursed Merfolk, setting up nicely.
So it is very interesting, especially playing against another deck that does not have a lot of draw, being an aggro deck. That Clarabelle does at times feel not as strong, but
It's a little expensive.
Yeah, but also the fact that if you're able to get it down, Clarabelle clears a lot of characters.
Well, and Clarabelle has a lot of power behind it, and I believe that's a Baloo of his own. Clarabelle has a lot of power behind it, and like I was saying before, aggro loses because it runs out of cards. It typically will get to 16, 17, and Clarabelle even drawing 1 or 2 extra cards could mean the difference between winning and losing. So it does look like we are going to be questing with the Lilo and the Daisy for 4.
So it does look like we inked the small Clarabelle. And we are going to play out a daisy, and we are going to quest for a total of 5 to also catch up to 7.
Gonna tie it up. Let's see if our Emerald player has a 2-cost card to follow it up with. It does not look like it.
Does not seem to.
Nope. So all tied up here. 3 characters apiece, 7 lore apiece. Got a Daisy. We got a Lilo on our Amethyst player's side. Not positive what that top card is.
We shall see. I see they inked the goat.
Playing a Cusco, playing a Maleficent. And we are questing for at least 4 here. Oh, I believe that's a Donald Duck bodyguard.
Ah.
So that is very good. It's going to prevent any sort of challenges. Because if you look at the Emerald player side of the board, not great challenges to be had unless they want to give up that piglet.
So we are now in a reverse situation from our last match, in which now the Emerald player would have to trade in both characters totaling 5 lore.
Yeah. At least they do have the Daisy that would survive, so it would just be a trade for the piglet, but that means that the Daisy's not questing. And it might be time. I know that I said that the Emerald player typically doesn't have the ability to really control the board as much, but it might be the time that they have to make that decision to start controlling the board. But they are going to quest. That is for quite a bit. That's 2, 4, 6, 7. So we'll see what the Amethyst player has. We got quite a few characters over there.
So it looks to be questing for at least 7. But
And
with that gathering,
the
wisdom,
gathering
and
knowledge, I think that might do it. We got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think, on board. I think that's going to do it.
And that does look to be 20.
That is. Well, congratulations to the Amethyst player. An aggro mirror is always very stressful. But both players did really well trying to navigate that tricky position.
Both players definitely did an amazing job. And once again, it's just a testament to some of these players' knowledge and just deck building
Oh, I love
skills.
that handshake.
Yes,
Yes.
the camaraderie between all of them. Some of these wonderful players do get to play together a lot here at Mission Board Games. It is a very open place for people to be able to come to.
And if you're in the Kansas City area, you wanna swing on by.
Mission is always a great place to come out, and there are so many wonderful places here in Kansas City, and it's such a great community. I'm really excited to be a part of it, and I want to see how we grow over the course of this game.
Yeah. And one thing that really impresses me about Kansas City is, you talk about all the different stores that we have. We have this amazing community that is such a privilege to be a part of. And I think it's really great the grassroots organizations that we have. We put on this store championship for the youth division, and we're putting on bigger tournaments with more prizing, for the players who want to be more competitive, and we're putting on a set 1 metagame tournament. It goes to show you that this game just spans so many different types of people of all ages and play styles, and it's so much fun to be a part of.
So speaking of some of our upcoming tournaments, I am excited not only for our set 1 tournament that should be happening tomorrow, but also next week's 1K tournament that is happening. It's great to see, as you said, how we've grown from being the group of people at 1 or 2 places and now spanning across almost 11 stores. And having our own set of large format tournaments outside of those DLCs to just make sure that we're not only prepared, but we're also able to invite people from the surrounding areas who may not have as many places to play.
Well, and I think it's great that the Lorcana community, all the stores in the Kansas City area are pretty spread out. It's a pretty sprawling metro area, but you get people who travel to all of the different stores, so you really get to know a bunch of these competitors. And then when you have bigger events like the 1K that we're putting on next week, You feel like you are going to a bigger tournament, but it is with people that you've played every single week, and you're like, okay, you know what? This time, I'm going to beat that guy. I'm finally going to beat him. He beat me on Tuesday last week, but I finally am going to do it this time when it matters. Oh, hello again.
Well, and on top of that, it is great. As someone who's gotten to travel to DLCs,
Mm-hmm.
I've went from having people that I get to play a card game with to truly forming friendships.
Friendships, yeah. Like when you see someone every Thursday at the card store, and maybe it's just a small 8-person tournament, but you're just like, you start going there and you get paired against them round 1, and you're like, what's your name? And then every week that same person is there. You just can't not become friends with some of these people,
So before we go to break, I do have a question that I think both of us should answer.
Okay.
As 2 players of the game, what is your favorite deck ink color combination?
I was thinking about that the other day because I've tried a bunch of different types of decks, but it's really hard for me to get away from Amethyst. I took Ruby Amethyst to Atlanta. I took Ruby Amethyst to Vegas. I did okay in Vegas, and I just having the card draw of Amethyst is just such a safety net for me. I don't like running out of cards. Drawing cards is the most powerful thing you could do in a card game, and so really, really difficult for me to get away from that. What about you?
So as someone who is an avid fan of Hades, specifically the 4-drop recursion,
Yes.
I have become a fan of red yellow.
Yes, I have seen this.
Yes. And the greatest thing about it is we are a no fossa red yellow.
Bold.
Yes.
Bold.
Well, we like to control what cards we're able to play and when we're able to play them.
Don't like the randomness.
No. But it is always fun because I have recently played a Minnie Mouse Toolbox in which I was able to play lower amounts of cards because I was able to tutor them to the top,
Sure.
and also able to play the Hades to recur them once they have been discarded.
You know what a great card is for after you have tutored a character to the top? Mufasa. All I'm saying is that there is someone very specific in our community that you should not tell that you are not a Mufasa fan.
Well, I will say that it's not that I'm not a fan of Mufasa. It's just when I don't have the control over what happens with Mufasa, or I have to think very hard of if certain cards will stay on top or not, which I have seen multiple times. People take the Mufasa card and put it to the bottom of the deck.
Yeah.
It does not play that way. The card does stay on top,
It stays
but I
on
don't
top.
like people knowing what I'm about.
You don't like to give away that much information.
Not unless I want to.
I think I remember playing against your Minnie Mouse Toolbox deck at one of our set champs last season.
So I will give a spoiler for the next 2 tournaments that we have, both the set 1 and our 1K. I will be playing a version of Red Yellow for both.
Probably a little different if you're only doing a set 1 meta and then you're doing a set 6 meta.
They're not the same, but they
not the
do share
same.
some staple cards, such as
Yeah.
the Rapunzel's, which has beautiful
So
art.
good. So good.
And-
You got the DLC ones, right?
Yes, I did. I got an entire
pretty.
playset.
So pretty.
Yes, so I am really excited to be able to
They're
pull out
foils,
those.
right? They're the foil DLC ones?
So unfortunately,
We'll be right back.
yes, I am going to have to defer to some better players, but I was definitely able to get me some non-foils
That's pretty
from
good.
side events.
That's
but
pretty good.
I do expect to try to get some foils in
You
the
know what?
future.
Hot take. I think the non-foils look better.
They are absolutely gorgeous, and anything that is $5,000 less definitely looks better inside of my deck.
Yeah, that might have something to do with it.
Yeah. But we will be right back. We are excited to give you our final
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 round
round
list.
coming up. So please stay tuned, and we will be right back with you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was really good.
Oh, that's not playable.
All right. Welcome back to our final round of Swiss here at the Kids Store Championship, brought to you by Mission Board Games in Mission, Kansas. We're getting ready to move into the top 4. We got to see who's going to make it.
So excited. This is our last round before the top cut, and it looks like it is going to be a very hard-fought match for both of these wonderful players.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what colors we're going to end up having.
Yeah. It's all a mystery until we see those first few cards.
This is one time I will tell people that I do understand that you see extra hands out. Some of our players are young enough that they do need some assistance. I do understand what the rules say, but their hands are just not big enough to do things. And we are an inclusive group, so we try to make sure that everyone's able to play. So I'm so excited to see some of our younger participants.
We got some parents helping out with shuffling and everything like that, and so very cool to see them involved.
Definitely excited. I see it looks like someone may be playing Ruby.
Okay.
I thought I saw something that may ready a character. So
I think I see Amber Amethyst over on the right side.
So I also look like I see Sapphire. So I'm kind of interested to see how this Sapphire Ruby deck goes against Amethyst Amber.
Amethyst Amber. Oh. Yes. Very popular here today. So we will see what this matchup looks like. We've had some interesting matchups. I think we've had 2 aggro mirrors and an Emerald Steel versus Ruby Sapphire, which is very interesting. So we'll see what this looks like. Oh, actually,
it may be Amber.
Amber Sapphire. Very cool. I think there might have been a card flipped upside down there.
I like the auto shuffler of parents. I kind of wish I had an auto
I wish
shuffler.
I had my own shuffler, right? Like,
yes.
My hand gets tired after a few rounds, so that would be really nice. One thing, don't get one of those machines.
No.
Don't do that. If you want to keep your cards safe, don't put it into a machine.
Well, if I'm playing with my $5,000 Rapunzels that you mentioned,
right,
I would hate to put those in that machine.
All right, and we are off. That is a 1-drop Lilo. And our player on our right has 4 cards left in hand.
Oh, it looks like a Mufasa was drawn or a Simba.
Okay.
So with some of our younger players, we do have parents helping them out with being able to read
cards. The cards, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and it looks like a throwback to set 1 with the small Stitch.
Yeah, absolutely. But cool. All right. Turn 2 for our Amber Amethyst player. Got that Lilo in play. Gonna add a Maleficent as well as a Daisy. So we're doing the triple 1-drop route and questing for 2.
So as much as we would like to keep this Stitch around for the shift target possibly, I think we may have to push out using Stitch to control the board.
The Stitch is a 2/2, I believe, right? So it should be able to cleanly take care of the Lilo by challenging and kind of stem some of that lore advantage. And we do also have a 2-drop Simba, which is a 2/3, so can take care of, kind of put the Maleficent in check maybe next turn.
But it also does make sure that Daisy doesn't get in and freely attack the Stitch to take it out.
So we do see that play. It looks like Stitch is going to be challenging Lilo, taking 1 damage back. I'm very excited to see the Sapphire cards that our player is playing.
So I do question if we are going more of the support route versus our ramp, or if there are ramp cards to try to quickly get to the Stitch shift. Ooh, say that 5 times fast.
Stick shift.
Yeah. Stitch Shift,
Stitch.
so that you're then able to play out characters that will
Sure.
allow you to draw cards.
Draw cards, and we haven't seen a lot of the shift for Stitch in a while, but it's still very powerful. I think that was a white rose, so we're going to gain 1 from that, and then we are going to be questing with Maleficent for another 2, and Daisy for another 2.
That actually looks like they played the magic carpet.
Oh.
So I think that is the magic carpet.
That's the one that moves to a location, right?
Well, there may be 2, because there's one that moves to a location, but there's also an aggro-heavy version that quests for 3.
Oh, that would be big plays right there.
So yes, it looks to be the 3-cost inkable 1/3 that quests for 3 magic carpet.
Wow. A 1/3 is actually really good on this board.
So it does look like we have some characters that may be able. Ooh, we have a Max for Max.
Max for Maxi. Maybe that's why he chose it.
And I am interested to see which card is going to get played. So it is the Wendy.
Wendy Darling. She has support and ward, I believe.
She does. So that Wendy Darling may help him turn the tide of the game.
Absolutely. Looks like we are questing with our Stitch and Simba for 2.
So with her being a 3/1 that quests for 2, allowing for a clean trade, if you go in with the Stitch, but also only giving 1 damage if you go in with the Simba.
Right.
She is going to be a very big player.
Yeah. If if this magic carpet does quest, which I imagine that it will, since it quests for 3, definitely we'll be able to take advantage of that if that's the route that they choose to go. Turn 4, we got a Tiana, I believe. It's the legendary Tiana. Very good card to prevent any sort of challenges. So that's going to kind of throw a wrench into the Wendy Darling plan, unless our Sapphire Amber player just doesn't play anything next turn.
But it also does cancel out Tiana's effect for 1 attack, with that Wendy Darling buffing you by 3 and Tiana debuffing by 3. It means that your character actually just attacks for its normal attack.
Very interesting. And we got to remember that Tiana does require it to be exerted, I believe. So got a free turn right here if we want to do some Wendy Darling shenanigans, so to speak.
Actually, for Tiana, her special reservation says whenever a character of yours is challenged while this character is exerted. So you are correct that we have the 1 turn that would then allow them to attack, but then after, it would just be trying to find a way to remove the Tiana or put enough damage this turn that next turn characters can attack and banish characters.
Well, and Tiana quests for 2. So we have a Tiana, we have a magic carpet, we have I believe we still have a Daisy, and perhaps a Maleficent. They're all questing for 2 or 3. This is a big board. They're already at 13. And with Tiana throwing that whole, taxation effect into the mix, very, very complicated. But it looks like our Ruby Amber player is just going to be questing, going to try to get on the board a little bit more.
And questing, of course, is the name of the game. It's always great to make sure that you are higher up on lore. It does look like with 2, 5, 7, is that a total of 8?
2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, I believe. So I think that our Amethyst Amber player can just quest out right here. But we'll see what other card they have. Ooh, Legendary Simba. Very cool card. Very powerful card. So it looks like the Tiana is questing, and I think we are going to be seeing a full quest and the end of the game. And there it is. Game 1 goes to our Amber Amethyst player, playing some spicy cards. That Tiana and that Simba, very, very cool.
So I have considered putting the Tiana into one of my red yellows, but it does start to increase the uninkable slots, and especially with cards like Gaston that allow me to bring out characters for cheaper, I don't want to bog it down.
Yeah. You know, the upside of that Amber Legendary is really, really high. But you definitely, I think, you need to consider how it works as an engine in the deck, and I'm not sure that it's quite there in the current metagame. But you know, we're going to be getting the rest of set 7 spoiled, I think, on Monday. I think coming up, and there might be some good decks that come out of that metagame that Simba can really utilize.
So as we see them prepare for their next matchup, I do want to ask, what do you think a reasonable amount of uninkables are in a deck?
You know, whenever I'm building my decks, I typically try to stay in the mid-teens. If I'm around 15, I feel pretty comfortable. I think my Ruby Amethyst deck did go up to 16 or 17, and there were definitely games, not very many games, but there were games where I didn't have anything to ink, or I had to ink something that I didn't want to. And I think, you know, if there's a 1%, 2% fail rate on those sorts of decks, I think that that's probably a pretty reasonable risk to take. But it does mean that you do run that risk, and you will lose games because of it. Amber Steel runs an absurd amount of uninkables, right? Are they in like the 20s or something like that?
So I have previously run versions of Amber Steel that had about 20 to 24 uninkables.
So many uninkables, and I have seen that deck stumble on ink more often than any other deck, right? And to be fair, maybe it doesn't need to ink every single turn. Amber Steel is very good at operating only on 3 or 4. You know, they don't need to get to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8. Not the types of decks that I play. I get very nervous if I'm boxed into inking something that I don't want to.
Especially with decks that want you to play multiple cards. Amber Steel does have the benefit of being one of the few decks that has a large amount of songs to sing, so they are able to use alternative resources.
Yes.
So it is nice that you are able to do things while paying that alternative resource, but
yes,
I definitely think that most of the time, maybe 14 at max would be the max.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is something to be said about double playing. You know, being able to play more than one card in a turn. And you're absolutely correct. Amber Steel songs, they can still sing their songs and play out another character, even if they're stuck on 3 ink. So,
well, it looks like we've done our mulligans and we're getting our last couple of shuffles in. So it looks like we're about to start this next match with an ink.
I believe that was a Maduck Manor, which is a pretty good card.
Phenomenal card.
And I think that is a Daisy Duck.
Yes,
but not the typical Daisy Duck that we see.
So I am interested in seeing if this Daisy Duck is around for the possible card draw, as it is a 1/3, but it also balances out the fact that it is not uninkable as its counterpart.
Right.
And I know with a lot of the cards we play in both Amber and Sapphire that are very powerful to reduce the amount. Ooh, I do see a befuddle.
There's a befuddle. It's going to befuddle that Daisy Duck back to the hand, kind of undoing the first turn for both players a little bit.
But especially with our younger players, I can understand needing a lot less uninkables, which is why I asked the questions. because it then gives them less to think about when mullinging to make sure that they're able to play out their turns.
Yes, I think when you're first starting out, if the alter phase of this game is the second hardest thing that you're ever going to do, even just playing, like anywhere at any level, deciding what you alter at the beginning of the game is going to be the one of the hardest things to do in the game. And so if you're going to reduce that cost, reducing the number of uninkables in the deck definitely helps.
So it does look like we played out the Windy Darting, which is a 1/3 that quests for 2. And I think that is a
Simba, I think.
not put in bodyguard.
Correct.
So it is a 2/3 Simba.
Yep.
And I think afterwards we have passed back over. It does look like we top deck another Windy Darling.
Yeah. Well, and Windy Darling is a pretty good aggressive card for its cost. So
And it looks like we are going to play out the Minnie Mouse Princess.
Minnie Mouse, I think it's a 2/3, I want to say.
She looks to be a 2-cost 1/3, Singer 3,
I think
and whenever
it
you
might be the set 1
Oh.
mini.
So that is the 2/3, cost 2, quest for 1, Dreamborn Princess.
Well, and the characters on the Amber Sapphire board line up pretty good to this Simba, because everybody has 3 willpower, right? So there's no clean challenges that can be made.
So in that case, if the Simba goes into our Windy, and then we can actually take our Minnie Mouse to clear the Simba, so that is a great way for this board to stay with 2 damage on each, and the possibility of Rapunzel Heal to draw.
That's true. That is true. I think that's a broom. Or, I'm sorry, a magic carpet. I think that's our... I know my new favorite card.
I was like, well, there's no whole new world in these colors, but I can tell you that is a whole new 3 lore.
Yes, very nice. We got the Simba questing for 1, and we are back to the Amber Sapphire player.
So it does look like we're going to ink and then play out the Daisy Duck 1-drop.
Yep. And we will quest for 3.
That has now moved us up to 5/1. And it looks like we're going to pass our turnover. I do see the Aurora in hand. So when we see some of these lower cost cards coming out, I think they're prepping to be able to play that 3/5 Aurora that normally would be able to shift on 3.
Right, absolutely. We'll see our Amber Amethyst player quest out. So gain 4, go to 5, tie it up. And I believe they drew a blue for the turn, which can be very interesting. I also see a Daisy Duck, which I think is getting played right now. And we might see a follow-up with, it looks like we have Blue, Simba, and Simba in hand. We got the 2-cost and the 5-cost Simba.
Yes.
Yes.
So it does look like both are in hand. And
So we might see that Simba come down next turn.
Oh, it does look like we also play Pluto, who is the goodest of boys. And we just look so excited. It does look like we are looking for a card to ink. And it does look like we do play the Aurora.
There's that Aurora.
And we are going to quest out for 4 to go to 9.
Okay. And it looks like now that Aurora, she has ward.
So
And
Aurora
then-
herself does not have ward,
I
but
see.
she gives ward to all of your other characters.
Okay.
And she is a
Looks like she's a 3/3. This might be a different Aurora. I'm curious because there's multiple, and they all kind of revolve around Ward.
So actually, this one looks like opponents can't choose your items for ability, and then it
Interesting.
also allows you to tap one of your items to look at the top card of your deck and put it on either the top or the bottom of your deck.
Okay, so maybe there is like an item sub theme that is happening with this Amber Sapphire deck, and unfortunately, we just haven't seen many items. But perhaps we will start seeing more items as the game continues.
And I will say, with both Aurora cards, with the very swirling art, they do look very similar.
They look very similar. Yes, absolutely. No one was judging here.
It's okay. I felt judged. If not, I know how to raise my hand and just call for a judge. Is there a commentary judge to come help me out when I'm getting picked on?
I think you're picking on yourself more than anything.
Well, they say you are your worst enemy.
That's true. And there is the legendary Simba. It's a very aggressive card. Very good. So we're going to quest with the Daisy for 2, and
We trigger and we get a Prince Eric off of our trigger.
it's a big old bodyguard, right?
It is a big bodyguard.
Big bodyguard. Although it just doesn't seem like anybody is interesting and challenging in this matchup. Which, you know what? I can respect.
Sometimes it's, hey, who can run faster?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Especially when our Amethyst player has a magic carpet in play. And I believe a blue in play. So very difficult to kind of get through that kind of wall to slow your opponent down.
I will say Gandhi would be proud of them. Non-violent.
Non-violence. Let's just quest. Let's just go on adventures together.
Is there not a quote by him that says that? It should be.
There should be. He should really get on that.
Hey, I just want to let you all know that we have created new words of Gandhi.
You heard them here first.
So I see we are inking a card, and it looks like we are going to...
Is that a lucky?
Ooh.
I believe that might be a lucky. And it looks like we are going to be questing for 2, 3, 4, 5.
So with the
6.
lucky in play, because whenever this character quests, if you have 4 or more other characters in play, your other characters get +1 this turn. So I am very interested.
Very, very aggressive, especially with the board that they have.
So especially seeing the fact that the only character that could be cleanly challenged is the Pluto. The other ones would either require us using the Simba or losing a character. I'm interested if there will be any challenges this turn.
I am curious. And I think we have 2, 4, 6, 8. I think we might have enough on board, especially with the white rose, putting us up to 14. And there is another 2 from Daisy.
One of the things that I respect most about these young players is they are walking through every step of the game, making sure all triggers are met, and completely playing out the game instead of just scooping and saying, hey, I got it.
And that's one of the things I really hope. So we're a few weeks away from Arcasia's island, right? And then afterwards we have Reign of Jafar. And I'm really hoping that with the Reign of Jafar, we get another co-op game, similar to Ursula's Deep Trouble, right? Because there is just something, like if you take this game, we had a Lucky on board. I've never seen a Lucky on board, and that was so cool. And I wanted to see more of that game. And it feels like the co-op games or the games that are played just for the love of the game, they get so much more interesting than sometimes if you are playing at like a DLC where there's going to be 7 different decks there, maybe, and you basically know every card in your opponent's deck, right? It's really interesting walking into a tournament and being like, I have no idea what you're playing. I have no idea what cards are in your deck. I cannot anticipate what your next move is going to be, and there's something really exciting about that,
I don't know what I would do if I ever saw Lucky come down against me.
I don't know what I would do.
I would pray I was on 7 and was able to be prepared.
I don't have a game plan for Lucky, but it does look like our Amethyst player had a game plan, and that was to win the game before it became relevant, right?
Which now, as we said, one of my new favorite cards is the Magic Carpet.
I know. Me too.
Even thinking about...
It's going in all my Amethyst decks now.
Actually, that would be a great card inside of Amethyst decks. Being able to take the control, 3 lore. It is a 3/1, so it's no fear of being brawled.
Is it a 3/1 or a 1/3?
That is a great question. Let's go check and see.
It doesn't matter. I'm playing it in every single Amethyst deck from now on.
So it is a 1/3, but once again, if you brawl my Magic Carpet,
I think I take
before
that
my
trade.
genie comes down.
I think I take that trade. Yeah, absolutely. I think, if you curve... Now, let's say... What set is that Magic Carpet from?
Magic Carpet is a set 6.
Okay.
So it was from the most recent set.
Okay. And what set was Brawl in?
Brawl is
Set 3, I believe. So I'm just saying, maybe there exists a future where set 3 cards are no longer played in the same section as set 6 cards.
And especially thinking about some of the new formats that are coming out, they're allowing us to be set specific or multiplayers.
Right.
It may be great to see a card that may cause threats that other players have to take care of on your board, especially playing in team modes where you may have cards such as Alice that are able to give it ward.
That's true.
And you're now able to protect those cards. Because Blurple has been a very viable deck. And even top some DLCs.
Keep trying to make Blurple happen.
Blurple did their thing at the DLC.
Here's what I want. I want Pack Rush set champs. That's what I want. Pack Rush set champs. So we will see if that happens.
Well, what we will see next is our top 4 to crown who is our store champion for this set. And if we do get our Pack Rush set champions, hopefully one of us will be the Pack champion of the world.
The Pack champion of the world. It's going to be you or me.
Yes.
It's going to be you or me.
The undisputed Pack champion of...
Who can beat us?
Just apparently Still Song. But we will take a small break and we will be right back. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much. All right, and welcome back. We are proud to present the top 4 of our Kids Store Championship, hosted by Mission Board Games.
These kids have went through 4 rounds of Swiss so far, and we are now in the final 2 matches to see who is going to be our Kids Store set champion.
And we are going to be watching Seeds 1 versus Seed 4. We're going to watch that matchup. I think we have seen both of them on camera before, but we shall see exactly what decks they are playing. It's showing off that Scar promo that they got for making the top 4. very lucky to have some Scar promos to give out to these amazing competitors.
And not just Scar promos. We've also been able to give out a trove deck boxes. We've also given out every single competitor today has left with some type of prizing.
Yeah.
Which, no matter who you are, makes you feel great coming in
Yes.
and makes you want to continue playing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, I know that's the case for me. You know, whenever I go to a tournament, I always like walking away with something, anything, you know? And we were just very fortunate to have the support of Mission Board Games to be able to do these raffles and everything.
Yes, they have been an amazing sponsor for this event and always a big contributor to the Lorcana community here in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So once again, thank you to Mission Board Games for just being amazing at everything that you do.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Looks like it's going to be Amber Sapphire on the left. No, I'm sorry. Not Amber Sapphire. That would be amazing. Amber Amethyst on the left is one of our players. And I believe, is it an Amber...
Trying to take a peek.
I know, I'm trying to see. Steel? Is it the Steel Song player that we saw in round one?
It looks like it may be our
I
Steel
think
Song
so.
player.
That's very cool. I think it was... Wasn't that the same matchup that we saw round one? Amber Amethyst versus Steel Song?
Amber Amethyst. I think it was.
I think it was.
Amber Amethyst. Yes.
And there
A
was
very
quite a
different player.
few Amber Amethyst decks here today. So this may not be a literal rematch between these two, but it is definitely going to be a rematch of a replay of round one. So that'll be very interesting to see how this goes this time.
And it's going to be interesting to see the difference in play with us having a new pilot for the deck versus this, more diggy style Amber Steel Song deck. And I'm really excited to see how the change in play is adjusted for our player.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to get shuffled up here, and we are going to draw our opening hands. All right, and I'll be very interested to see who our first seed is, who's going to be on the play for this one, because both of these decks are going to be very aggressive. They're going to be trying to quest early and quest often. So I think the play is going to be very important to this matchup right here.
I also think thinking back to Ward in some of these, or not Ward, but Bounce, and seeing how those cards are being able to be targeted if they stay readied versus some of our other decks that have those exerted characters for things such as Calhoun.
Yeah, well, we do see a Calhoun in the opening hand for our Steel Song player, and that is going to be a very powerful card against the aggro decks, kind of the bane of the aggro deck's existence. But Mim Fox does do a good job of keeping Calhoun in check. So it's kind of like what you were saying. If our Amber Amethyst player is on the play and can play and kind of navigate the game around like the Mim Foxes, the Snakes maybe, in order to make sure that Calhoun never really gets off more than once, I think that's the avenue to victory right there.
I definitely think that's going to play a big part in the Amber Steel's victory. But once again, if we can get those goats bouncing and we can get cards that are high in attack and defense to be able to actually trade with those Calhouns and other cards such as Smee, I think we'll be in a good place. And it does look like our Amethyst player is inking a Pascal to play the Daisy Duck.
Play the Daisy. Classic turn one.
Yes, it is.
Yep. And we got our Amber Steel player inking a Sven and might be playing a Daisy of their own, and I think they are.
So once again, we're back to the Daisy Wars.
Back to the Daisy Wars.
So I would like to see what we have coming up next. We have the draw phase, and
they drew that card very sneaky so that we couldn't see it.
They are playing their cards close to the chest, which, of course, being someone who wants to be a competitive player, it is always one of those things you want to make sure that your hand isn't getting peeked at. And it looks like we inked the 1-drop Diablo. And we are going to pay 2 for
Ooh.
2 Lilos.
Ooh.
And we
Double
are going
Lilo.
to quest for 2.
And we got a Daisy trigger, getting a 2-cost Lilo to the Amber Steel player's hand, and immediately inked, and the Calhoun on 2, which we think we all knew was coming.
And so let's see. So we do get the Daisy trigger with the goat.
Got the goat, drawing for turn. Going back to turn 3. Very aggressive start with the triple 1-drops.
So at this point, would you suggest going into the Daisy with Daisy and then using the Calhoun to take out one of the Lilos? Or would you just clear the Daisy this time?
No, I want to get rid of the Daisy. Really depends on what this 3-drop is. If it's a bodyguard, you know, the choice is kind of made for you. And it is. It's the blue. And it's probably the best bodyguard, right? Because it basically is a 2-cost quester, and it's going to protect your other 3 characters. So this is a quest for 6. Reveals a Rapunzel.
And so we do go to 8. And as you said, at this moment, it does look like you would have to go into the balloon and then take out one of your Lilos.
They do have a Let the Storm Rage on, so they could deal 2 damage to the blue, use the Daisy Duck to challenge into it to finish it off, and then use the Calhoun to get rid of one of the Lilos. Alternatively, they could just challenge Calhoun into blue, each take their 2 lore, and then use the Let the Storm Rage on one of the Lilos. So
in that case, you could clear both Lilos and the blue, and now you are left with
just the Daisy Duck.
Yes.
So it does look like the Let the Storm Rage on is going to take care of one of the Lilos. I imagine the Calhoun is going to take care of the blue, and then I think maybe the Daisy is going to take care of a Lilo. There we go. Got that bodyguard situation figured out.
So both players will actually gain 2 off
very
of
interesting.
trade.
But you know, the Amber's Amethyst player had the start, had the aggressive 1-drops. I think we're just communicating that we gotta challenge blue first. Yep. And it looks like the Daisy actually quested, so they're leaving the Lilo in play.
Which it does look like they have a strength of a Raging Fire. So next turn, maybe one of 2 things. Being able to play the strength and then taking out the Daisy, or if they're able to play a single character.
They do have a lot of characters over there, but this is big. Another bodyguard boosting up one of their characters, so this is going to be a quest for 5. But the Steel Song player does have a variety of ways to clean up this board next turn. So we'll see if the Amethyst player can be a little fast, which they might just be, especially with that other 1-drop.
And especially with the resist 1 for Calhoun, that is a very important thing, because at the moment, the only thing that does damage is the Musketeer. And so the other cards, that Calhoun can go in and gain 2, but it is going to be if they are able to clear this board and stabilize, because now they would have to take care of every single character.
So we do see the strength. After a Cinderella, we see the strength on the Donald Duck bodyguard. Calhoun is going to come in and take care of the Lilo and gain 2 lore. And yeah, just a quest with the Daisy. It looks like we might be resolving some of these triggers over here. Oh, and a Gathering Knowledge goes to the bottom. That would have been amazing. That would have been an amazing draw. As it stands, they're going to go to 19, and I don't know that all of their characters are going to survive. Oh, Never mind. There's a goat. Goes to 16. Quest for 4. And that is game number 1.
And that is the thing about having those amethyst cards. Even though that top card of Gathering Wisdom and Knowledge was put on the bottom, having the goat to be able to push yourself over the top without having to have the interaction.
Well, and we saw the Amethyst player ink a White Rose the turn before. And so they really were just kind of overwhelmed with riches when it came to that free lore gain, which really does help push them over the top.
I love that explanation of Amethyst. It is the deck of the riches.
Yes, the deck of the riches when it comes to either drawing cards or gaining lore outside of actually questing with your characters. It is always able to pull out whatever it needs to, it seems sometimes.
A lot of people don't understand the importance of card draw when it comes to Lorcana, and just knowing that whether it is to have answers or to have threats on the board that will quest.
Well, and it's a lesson that comes from most card games, right? Is a lot of other card games have a similar philosophy where it is the person who draws the most has the better position because they have the most options, right? When you have something like Steel Song or even Amber Amethyst, they're really circumventing that fundamental lesson of the game, which is they're trying to win before any card draw matters.
So it does look like we're almost set up for our second match.
Yes, game 2.
Yes.
And that was a fast and furious game 1. You know, like I think the Amber Steel Song player, they were one turn away from stabilizing. Without that goat, you know, they would have been able to turn the quarter pretty quickly. And they were doing a really good job keeping pressure on the board.
Yes, I was very surprised at the fact that they were able to clear as many characters as they were able to while still gaining lore, which shows you the importance of things like Calhoun and Robin Hood that are able to challenge and gain
lore. Yeah, they basically pull double duty, right? And if you are, and I mean that's what makes Calhoun so good, is you're basically questing while challenging, right? And especially against aggro decks, it's really, really good. So we do see that our Amber Steel player is on the play, inking a Sven and leading off with a 1-drop Cinderella. So we could see a Strength of Raging Fire or a Let the Storm Rage on as early as next turn.
But we do see the turn 1 Daisy, which does mean that the character would still survive in both cases.
Yes, so turn 1 Daisy is an extremely good first turn play. Very few things are getting rid of it this early in the game. We do see an inking and a turn 2 Mr. Smee, which is a good challenger. And we will just quest for 1 with the Cinderella and pass the turn. All right. Turn 2 for our Amethyst player.
So we will ink the Befuddle.
Befuddle is an interesting card. You know, Befuddle can sort of answer a Calhoun.
And it does look like we play the Maleficent and a Diablo. So we are going wide. And is it a Calhoun that was played on the previous turn?
No, it was a Mr. Smee. So if our Amber Steel player wants to, they can challenge this Daisy Duck with both of their characters and lose neither of them, which is pretty good. But that means that they won't be questing.
So we do see them ink the Strength of a Raging Fire, and they are going to go wide by playing a 1-drop, and they are able to take
that
out.
Is very clean. They're able to put 2 more characters on the board and use the Singer 3 on Cinderella to sing Strength of a Raging Fire to take care of Daisy. Very clean, very good.
So now we should be looking for something similar to either a snake or a crab to be able to push in the Diablo. And I think at this point, the crab may be the better option.
It may be. The Amethyst player has not gotten off to a quick enough start to really just go for it. Their board is smaller than it was last game. They're at a lower lore total, so they really do need to start focusing on maybe shifting to a larger game plan that Amethyst allows them to shift into when they're running things like goats. They may be running rabbits or big Elsas, 5-cost Elsas, but we do see a befuddle. This will be interesting.
For me, I think I would choose the piglet as it was the biggest threat.
Yeah, quest for 3.
And now we do see the fact of them now being able to go wide themselves, stopping that piglet from questing for 3. And of course, with the Diablo, we all don't mind losing him as he replaces himself whenever he's banished.
Yeah, absolutely. You always make your opponent take care of the Diablo, right? You just be questing, and it can get you 2 or 3 lore in a game.
And we do see a dock, but the dock is very interesting as it has drawn a Daisy Duck and a Rapunzel.
Yes. Now, that Rapunzel can be really good with this Mr. Smee, except Piglet's a captain. So no damage going on to the Mr. Smee just yet. So looks like both players are really wanting to take that aggro role.
So we do see the Wendy off of the Daisy trigger.
Interestingly enough, the Amethyst player has stopped inking for several turns. So I think that they are 2 ink behind. I wonder if that means that they have a whole bunch of uninkables or if they're just unwilling to ink certain things.
Well, they were willing to ink the Wendy.
Yes. And we might see a bodyguard on this turn. No.
We actually see the Tiana.
We see the Tiana. So it could be interesting to not quest here and wait for the Tiana to be able to quest so that it's exerted.
But across this board, while you would be losing multiple characters, would you mind that as you have now stopped your opponent from questing with 3 of their characters?
I don't know.
To try to answer your board.
It's very interesting. I'm curious how the Tiana is going to play into kind of this math. I mean, this is a quest for 5, so that's pretty significant. But before that Tiana is going to be able to be exerted and her ability activated, kind of have free reign right here to challenge in and wipe the board if our Steelsong player wants to. So we see a Daisy Duck and we see a bodyguard of his own. We got the blue
up front, ready to protect.
I don't know that our Amethyst player is going to be challenging very much, but just in case. And this is a quest for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I believe. Put him to 17, and we got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the other side.
With
double gathering knowledge could do it.
Double gathering would be one of the few, which also could be possible, and why?
Maybe
we haven't seen any ink.
This is 2, 4, 6, 7. That would be very interesting. And we have one. Goes to 19.
Drum roll, please.
Oh, here we go. We're going to ink into another one. Oh, I don't think so. So close. That was going to be.
But the excitement of this is we do get to see these two go at it. But that was one of the nail biting.
That was very
second
close.
gathering was coming.
Oh, man. And I wonder if it was, did they not have the second gathering knowledge or did they not have the ink for it? Because like you said, that's a very good point. The gathering knowledges are uninkable and our Amethyst player stopped inking for several turns. So I wonder if it was just an inking issue that they were having.
That is a great question. And I really do wonder because one ink stood between you.
And, you know, that happens sometimes where you're like, you know what? I could totally win this game if I had one more ink. If I just had one more. If I had inked on that turn instead of this one. Very close game.
So, actually, with that thought, running your Diablo into a character instead of questing because you were in enough
Yeah.
of a with 17.
Interesting. Yeah.
You
yeah.
could have been able to just run it in to see if you got an inkable.
Except there was a blue, so it wouldn't have
doesn't do
been
anything.
banished. So maybe our Amethyst player thought of that and realized that they couldn't do that. So
So thinking back to some of the stats of characters, and we think of them being a 0 and a negative, and now thinking about characters that want to be banished.
right.
Because I have seen people banish their own Baloos
Yeah,
by
absolutely.
ramming them into game 2 instead of 1.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Baloo versus Baloo. It's kind of like that original.
The staring contest.
Yeah. It was like, I just wanted to waste a turn.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are several games when I was playing the Amber Emerald deck. There were several games that I won because I was able to challenge my Baloo into another character that would banish it, and there were some times where it was just like, yeah, if you hadn't quested or if you hadn't challenged on your side, I would have gone to 19. I wouldn't have been able to. So I mean, aggro decks they live on that razor's edge of decisions where the games are very fast, but your decisions are so important because there are so fewer decisions in the game that every decision is weighed more. So people who think that aggro decks are mindless, they really need to take the time to actually play them because the decisions are so integral.
Which is very similar to what we saw with the Rapunzel. While we did see a very wide board, we did see that Rapunzel was not able to be used
No.
because there was no damage.
And there was no time.
Yeah.
Like we barely got 5 turns, But we do see the turn 1 Daisy and a turn 1 Cinderella from the Steel Song player.
So it looks very familiar from the last round.
Yes.
We just have switched.
We have switched who is going first, and that tempo is going to be very good for our Amethyst player. And the Steel Song player is not going to be able to shoot down the Daisy Duck on turn 2, but might be able to shoot down anything that comes out on turn 2 right here. Except it's a Windy Darling, a 1/3 that is very good into the face of a Let the Storm Rage On.
So the only thing that we could do at this moment is to play double 1-drop and then be able to sing Strength. To
That would be
at least
fine.
Take out
We
the
did
lead.
see a Strength go to the bottom from the Daisy trigger, so I think we might see Calhoun here or Piglet. We're going to go with Piglet, and we might see this Storm onto either one of these characters just to start getting damage on something. We're going to see it on the Windy. Should not be banished, should only have 2 damage on it, so there we go. And I think that that's fine. Questing with Cinderella is not really what this game is about. Might as well get some damage on it, be able to challenge it next turn.
And the additional card could, in this case, be something that you want.
Absolutely.
You don't chance it to being lost.
Absolutely. And I don't think we've seen Rapunzel's. I haven't seen a Rapunzel on the Amethyst side yet.
I
So,
also have not seen a Rapunzel.
and we're a turn away from that anyway. So,
But we do see the Lilo being inked, and it looks like we are
probably a bodyguard.
playing 3 for either bodyguard and
Yeah, we got
is
that
the
Donald Duck.
So this will be a turn where we are questing for 5.
5, yeah, going
And
to
going
7. Yep. There we go. Got a Dock 2 hand from the Daisy trigger.
Which, as fast as our Amethyst player is going, I don't know if we will actually get to a time to see Doc trigger.
I don't know, like it and it's uninkable too, so it's not even helping out in that regard. We didn't play the Calhoun last turn, so this Donald Duck is going to be pretty difficult to take care of, except we do have to let the Storm Rage on, so we can take care of the Windy. That's good. But yeah, this Donald Duck is just going to be around for another turn, it seems. And going to cause more bodyguard problems next turn. Another Piglet turns on the previous Piglet.
What is very interesting is seeing the Pete's in hand, which could cut off those gathering knowledge and wisdom for a couple of turns.
Yeah, absolutely. So we quest with the piglet that we played last turn for 3, and I think that is going to be it. Pass it back over to our Amethyst player. I think I would have liked to see the Calhoun come down on turn 2, being on the draw, and being, okay, yeah,
So
we're going to
see the
challenge Donald into Piglet. Very interesting.
Which having 2 piglets on the field questing for 6 each turn is very dangerous,
Something that
especially
can
when you're only going for 3.
Yeah, absolutely. And that Daisy Duck, can't be understated. It's a 1/4, right? Very few things are going to be able to take care of it in a clean challenge,
And once again, as we go into the gathering knowledge and wisdom to get to 9 with the quest from Daisy to take us to 11.
Yep.
Let's see what we get off of the trigger.
Looks like it's a Sven. I imagine that will probably be inked. I don't know that it's the matchup for Sven. Oh, a Strength of a Raging Fire. Very good draw.
So at this point, you may consider inking something other than Sven, as next turn, if you can play the Calhoun, Finn would have been able to ready the Calhoun.
Right.
So that you could take out multiple characters.
Well, I think Sven says that you can't challenge or quest. I believe there's so many different flavors of ready a character, but I think Sven says that you can't challenge or quest. So I think it's just protection and songs.
Oh, it does. It says they can't quest or challenge for the rest of it.
So that one is a little interesting, right? Because the Ruby cards tend to say that you can't quest again, but allow them to challenge again. I guess the Amber cards are more specific, like this is just to be protection. But it does look like we actually did get the dock. So I think we played the Calhoun, played the dock, discarded, and drew 2. And now we're questing for 3 with Piglet.
Which is understandable, especially with seeing the Baloo, which doesn't have the attack to be able to help you. I can understand now looking for cards.
Well, and I wonder, maybe the Amber Seal player says, you're not really challenging. This Baloo doesn't really do much. So it does look like this Donald Duck, though, is going to challenge, take care of the other Piglet. It got 2 Piglets out of the deal. And we'll see what the follow-up is. A Baloo of their own. All right, going to 13, and we got another Daisy trigger.
So it is interesting to see where we could go from here. If the Steel Song player got a song, this is what we were looking for.
Yeah, so I think that's a Calhoun that can take care of the Baloo, and both players would gain 2. And then he can use the Let the Storm Rage on along with the Cinderella and the Dock. I think they both have 1 power, 1 strength, though. So gonna have to decide what we want to do here. We can use Let the Storm Rage on the Baloo, have Doc challenge into the Baloo, and then have Calhoun do 3 damage to the Daisy. I don't know. I don't know that they can get rid of both of these characters this turn.
So interesting. If they had not played the Lawrence, they would be able to play the Strength currently to then clear the Baloo and have the Calhoun take out the last character.
I can understand getting the Lawrence in play, though. Lawrence hits for 4 and also quests for 2, so I totally understand that. But right now, this I believe it's the Calhoun. I don't see a reason why it should not challenge Baloo. Gonna have to get rid of that Baloo eventually, right?
Yes, you do. Baloo sticks around, and if you are able to get another bodyguard Baloo out, then you have really put your opponent in danger, as you're only at 7 lore.
I think that they're passing, so it may not be a Calhoun. I'm curious.
So that upright card that is being covered by the light is a Calhoun.
Okay, so I think they're probably disinterested in giving them to lore, right? And they're just hoping that the Baloo will not be able to challenge into anything to banish itself. Because right now it can't challenge either of the characters. It can, but it just won't. It'll stay on the board. So that is very interesting. It's a little risky, right? Because now the blue can quest for 1, and that's an additional lore that it wasn't guaranteed to get before.
With the strength in hand, though, you can take care of most characters, but 2 characters.
This is very tight.
Becomes a little bit difficult.
And if the blue gets banished, they're going to go to 18, and that is a gathering knowledge. That is a goat. So they do have a strength that they can get rid of something. Probably the windy, I would say, since it has the highest toughness or the highest willpower right now.
So currently they're able to challenge in with the Calhoun. I would look at doing 1 damage. No.
They might do Calhoun into Blue, Lawrence into Daisy, Strength Windy. Oh, but then that leaves the Lilo.
Yes.
So
originally I was thinking about the fact that you could sing with both Lawrence and the Cinderella. But you would want damage on something because you would want to use the Rapunzel to possibly draw cards. And once again, that Baloo is having the issues because if they were able to challenge in with, say, the Lawrence to just take out the Daisy Duck, we would currently be at 15, and we would be able to heal Lawrence so he stays a 4/4. And we will be able to at least take out one of the 2 quests.
But as it is right now, they only have 1 song to take care of something, and they need to be able to take out both of these readied characters. Right now, they are at 18. Our Amethyst player is at 18. Our Steel Song player needs to take out both of the Windy Darling and the Lilo, and I think that they can only do 1. And so we will see the strength on the Windy Darling, and we can take out the Daisy Duck, but that still leaves the Lilo.
I think for our Steel Song player, they are in a bind, and it looks like they are.
We might need to play the Rapunzel, and I'm not sure what we're drawing for, though.
Maybe they have a Fire the Cannons or a
that would be
Boom.
That would be very good. I think it was a Gantu, though. And I think that's the game, and that is the match.
And they
had a gathering knowledge too. Oh no.
So it is great to see that we have replayed a very similar match to our first round, and to see how the tables turned with just having cards that are able to protect those characters, where previously that Calhoun was able to go in and take out.
Yes. The Calhoun was such a monster in the last round that we did for this matchup, and I can't remember if it was this game or the last game, but I think it was this game, the 3rd game, that our Amber Steel Song player had the opportunity to do either a turn 2 Piglet or a turn 2 Calhoun, and I would have loved to see the Calhoun on turn 2. It all goes back to that idea of who is the aggressor. Who is supposed to be controlling the board, who is supposed to be questing for the lore, right? And I think once all that it takes is practice and playing these types of matchups over and over and over again for you to kind of make that determination on the fly and be able to pivot whenever you have to.
So it does look like we are going to get to go straight into our finals match.
Wow. So our semifinals match went really quickly, because I feel like, our quarterfinals match, or I guess there's semifinals and finals.
Yes.
Because it's top 4, right?
Yes. So
but it seems like the ones that we just did, our 1v4, went pretty fast. So the 2v3 seed must have gone even quicker if we're getting into it immediately.
And that's one of the things about when you have multiple players playing aggro. And as we can see, we have our first prize.
Here are our trophies.
Yes, our first prize championship is the Baymax first place trophy. And for our second place, we have a lovely Scar plushie please make sure you're not burned when he is preparing you to take a nap. So I am excited to see what our finals bring. It has been a great 4 rounds. We may be taking a short break. And actually, we'll be back in about
Probably
20 seconds.
Yeah.
To be able to bring you our finals matches.
But I think we're going to be getting into it pretty soon, so don't go anywhere. All right, and welcome back to our finals.
Oh my
of
God,
the
I'm
Store
so
Championship,
excited.
the Kids Store Championship, hosted by Mission Board Games. I am so excited. Do you know what the 2 decks are in the finals?
I know one.
You should know one of them.
Just saw it.
So we know that it's Amber Amethyst.
Yes.
And then the other deck is the Emerald Steel deck that we saw earlier.
So Robin Hood.
Yes, the Robin Hood dot deck.
I am really excited to see how these two play against each other.
Yes.
Especially with the high defenses of our side of Amethyst Amber, and then just the ping damage.
Yeah.
And seeing how it goes. And as we can see, we have our
We
championship
have our
trophy.
trophies right there.
If
And
you did not know that our championship trophy was donated by a family who actually couldn't make it, but they made sure that there was
I think
a trophy.
they made it too. They
Yes.
crafted it. So we can see the Baymax first place right there, and the Scar is for second place because Scar always comes second.
Yes, and it's just so great to see how a community has gotten together to
Yeah.
make sure that this happens.
Yeah.
And even when they not able to make it, they still made sure that there was a donation. Their Scar keeps waving with Simba on his chest.
And I'm honestly a little jealous that we don't have these for the set championships that I've participated in.
I
Like,
would've
where's my
loved it.
Baymax trophy? Like,
You know what? I actually would have went for second place. I would have been fighting for
Yeah.
second because I just love that Scar plushie
yeah,
so much.
absolutely. So that is so cool. But we are getting into it. Like I said, I am so interested to see how this matchup goes. Like we've seen this Amber Amethyst deck be so good at being so fast, and they're playing the Daisies that have 4 willpower. They're playing Windy Darlings that have 3, and we're going to see if the Robin Hoods, the ping damage, we've seen babooms and fire the cannons and mosquito bites, and I'm really wondering if it can overcome it.
I'm really excited to see the Helga Sinclairs
Yes.
and the Tinkerbells with us having the 2-drop morph, and there not being many answers. There's no direct
Right.
damage.
Right.
So that morph will actually survive to be shifted on top.
And I can't imagine that. It's just showing the camera what the hand is.
See, why can't everyone?
Yeah,
the person that-
that is very stream friendly. Thank you so much. So it does seem like we're putting back a Helga. And he showed us the Let the Storm Rage on, so that's good. I wonder because they're probably not going to be putting the morph into any danger, right? And if they can morph a Tinkerbell, like you said, or a Helga, or a Beast, it's probably sticking around. There's not really a lot of ways in the Amber Amethyst deck to be able to get rid of it.
Definitely seems like it's sticking around. I don't think that the Amber Amethyst deck plays a Elsa. And outside of Elsa, there's not many characters that are able to do damage or exert those ready characters for them to be able to make sure that those
Right.
effects don't trigger. And
Yeah.
so it is going to be very interesting to see if the speed can beat the chip away.
And I think our Amber Amethyst player might be the first seed. So
They do get to go first.
I think they may get to go first, which is going to be very, very important in this finals match.
So as we're thinking about this match, I love that we have talked about the shiftability of morph. And I am also excited because when I saw the Baymax, the fact that we now will have a Baymax that is a universal
Shift is super interesting, and I wonder if they're gonna explore that option more when it comes to like shapeshifter characters. But we'll have to just see.
So we ink the White Rose and we are playing the Maleficent off to a good start.
Yep. We see Sherwood Forest, which I think is being eyed as ink right there, and we will play a Curse Merfolk. So we both players have their 2 questers out.
And I think being able to match the speed starting out is going to be an important way for this Steel Emerald deck to stay in the match, because once they can start getting control, as long as they're not too far behind,
Right.
I could see them getting ahead. But we ink the Donald, and I don't know if we're playing 2 1-drops or we actually do play the Windy Darling.
Windy Darling, which we called out as very, very important because of that 3 willpower.
Yes. And so we now move back over to the Emerald Steel player.
Is that 3 hidden ink casters?
That looks like 3 hidden ink
Might be
casters.
2. We see one of them, and you're gonna draw a card. No inking troubles from here on out.
Like all cards are on the table
Yep.
for ink.
We're gonna quest with that Curse Merfolk. I imagine that Curse Merfolk might not be ever getting a discard from our Amber Amethyst player. I think they might just let it go. Might just, you know what? You can get your 2 lore every turn.
The only chance that I do see is if we see a bounce card, such as the Madame Mim Fox coming in, and maybe just going ahead and taking the card just to make sure that they are able to run
Sure.
the match.
I could see that. As it stands right here on board, I think it's probably just better to quest for 4, right?
Yes. So questing for 4 here, and we do see the Mim being inked, so it is probably going to be a go wide situation.
Might see a bodyguard here. It's the favorite of a turn 3.
And I am going to take a guess and say the Donald
Duck.
Ah,
Oh,
it's
it's a
the
blue.
Baloo. So getting one of those uninkable cards out of our hand to kind of free up some space.
The blue is interesting right here because that Curse Merfolk, not a great attacker.
Not at all. But it does offer the fact that there is not much that can also go in to take out the Baloo.
Right.
When Maleficent, on the other hand, is very vulnerable to any type of damage.
Like this Fire the Cannons that the Emerald Steel player has. So I imagine that's what we're going to see. We're going to see him morph first, and then we got one more for the Fire the Cannons on the Maleficent, and take that out.
And now it is interesting to see the morph on turn 3, because we do have the ability for the turn 4 shift. And with that,
The Tinkerbell.
yes,
Yeah.
and with that additional damage that Tinkerbell comes down with, that means you're able to clear out the Windy and the Baloo.
Yeah,
in one
that's gonna
turn.
be huge, and I don't know how they can really play around it. Except we are gonna sing with Baloo to draw 3 cards, 2 cards, excuse me.
I was like, you have
That
some
would be
extra
really good.
friends.
That would be really good.
Oh, I would love that. I do have a new card that comes out that will actually allow
Each player
both players to
Draws 3 cards. Very good.
I could see that in the Amethyst Steel deck, where I can then try to ink Hold
Mm-hmm.
the World.
So I'm looking at this board, and actually, if depending on what is being played right here, like let's say it's another Windy Darling, right? Tinkerbell's not gonna be able to take out all of them.
No, but with the Gathering Knowledge, we do
Gathering
get
Knowledge,
down
go to-
just a single.
Go to 8. Quest for 2 with Windy, go to 10, and this Tinkerbell is only going to be able to take out the Baloo.
Well, Tinkerbell would actually be able to come down, deal 1 damage to all 3
The 1
characters,
damage, you're right.
and
Yeah,
then
absolutely.
deal 2 to the Windy.
Absolutely, so never mind.
And so it does look like we do the Tinkerbell
Mm-hmm.
shift, and Tinkerbell take no damage from this.
Yeah, very, very good. Very, very good. But that still does leave our Amber Amethyst player at 12 with a Windy on board.
Now, the thing is, though, from here on out, any quest, you have to have a character that
Very
has
dangerous.
2 or more willpower to survive.
Very dangerous, yep. So we may see what aggro players sometimes will do is that they will just build up a board and be able to quest out all in one turn.
Well, most decks that would be great against, but being a steel deck and having things like grab your swords or another Tinkerbell does make that a very dangerous.
I think our Amber Amethyst player is in a precarious spot, but they're at 12 lore right now. And may be able to do something. Going to befuddle the Curse Merfolk back to the hand, so kind of slow that down a little bit. Curious to see if we're going to quest for 3 with this Windy. If we do, the entire board is getting wiped next turn. But at 15.
Being at 15, and now we do have things such as Goat and Gathering Knowledge and Wisdom that
Might be
will
able to
gain lore and push you over the top.
Yeah, maybe. 1 card in hand for our Amethyst player, so we'll see what happens. But we're going to ink a Sherwood Forest. We're going to play an Ursula, Deceiver of All, and there is a Let the Storm Rage on, so getting very, very close to controlling this board and making sure that there's not any threats.
And Ursula being able to sing a song twice, especially one that would draw you a card for each one.
Very, very good. Very,
And
very powerful.
there is a mosquito bite as well to do an extra damage.
Yeah, so, this Maleficent, if it would survive, but there's 3 cards in their hand that's going to be able to take care of it.
I am very interested to seeing this deck list.
I really want this deck list. It's very, very interesting. And, there's only a couple more turns for this Amber Amethyst player. I think this is a goat. Okay. Goes to 16.
And so now if we are able to...
Well, we can double sing the Let the Storm Rage on, right? Or just this. And just quest out.
which does allow them to go up to 16.
Yep.
And if there is no answer to at least one of the characters,
Double gathering knowledge. Here we go.
and if we were at one more ink, we had the chance of a gathering and a white rose.
Right. But it does not look like we have it. So
And
that
it
is
does
game
look
one.
like our Steel Emerald is our store champion.
That was game one, correct?
Oh, was it game one?
Was that
I
game
thought it
one?
was.
I think that was game one.
Sorry, it has been a long day. I've only been sitting in this
Wait.
chair for 6 hours.
Best of one here in the
Yeah.
finals.
Well, let's go to best of 5 so that I don't make a silliness.
Yeah, I think that was only game one. And so, but what it does mean is that our Emerald Steel player was able to break serve in the finals, which is very, very good for them because that means they will be on the play for any potential game 3. So we'll see if our Amber Amethyst player can be just a little bit faster.
This just goes to show you how amazing they are, that the first game was so exciting.
That we
I
just
revert-
we
I just
completely
went to
forgot.
3.
Completely forgot what game it was.
And so this hand does look like we have answers to our early board. Cards like Fred are super interesting.
Fred is interesting. I still am curious how much challenging the Amber Amethyst player is going to be doing. I don't know that we've seen a fox.
I have not.
I haven't seen a
many
fox.
times. I have seen the snake.
I've seen the snake a couple times. I've seen the snake inked a couple times, but I haven't seen a fox inked or played. So I'm curious. I would imagine that the fox is in there, but maybe it's not.
So then at that point, does Fred become one that we either put back just so that we don't have it in our hand, or do we keep it in our mulligan so that we can use it as ink, since we know that our opponent doesn't really prefer challenging?
I don't know. I would imagine as the Emerald Steel player, you have so many high upside cards that are really good in this matchup. Like all of your damage cards, all of your damage actions are so good in this matchup that I wouldn't feel it's necessary to keep something just because it's ink, but we shall see.
So we do see the inking of the goat,
Yep.
and we are going to play a small child, Lilo.
And I don't know that I saw. Oh, Fire the Cannons off the top is a pretty good draw. But I don't know that I saw our Emerald Steel player alter their hand at all. I'm not sure that I might have missed it, but they might have just kept 7.
Majority of those cards look
Very
exactly the same from when we started.
Yeah.
But I will say, like you said, having the Fire the Cannons off the top and then seeing the Baboom as a secondary follow-up.
Double 1-drop will help with that. Baboom can only take care of one of them. I imagine it's going to be the Lilo.
And so, especially knowing that we don't have many cards that survive, inking the time ago and then playing the Baboon on the Lilo, as you called it.
Yeah. Definitely very good at slowing the opponent down.
And so, wondering if we're going to see that quest bounce. I know sometimes inking can be an issue, but it looks like we are going to ink the snake.
Ink the snake again. And we might see a bodyguard. Nope.
And we actually see friends to draw 2 cards. And in this case, I guess since my opponent has not played any characters, I do have a Diablo that is safe to play, and making sure that I don't run out of gas as she did last turn may be the plan this turn.
Yeah, absolutely. Not under any sort of pressure right now. Looks like a Hidden Ink Caster is going to be the play for this turn, and a Robin Hood followed up.
Some of these top decks have been absolutely amazing.
That was very good. Very good top deck. Yep.
And so currently we have just a Diablo, and we are going to 4 ink if we ink this turn. And I'm interested to see if we are going to go wide or if we're just going to play a large character such as Goat. And it does look like we play the Blue.
Blue is a good draw.
The only thing that I could see affecting this Blue is either the Shift Robin Hood or if we're able to see the ping damage. But I see we have put back the Hidden Ink Caster.
Interesting.
If my opponent was counting on that Ink Caster,
could be very disruptive for sure. Oh my God. Shift Robin Hood off the top. These top decks have been insane. So good. Gonna ink that Fred, like you said, and shift that Robin Hood. And we're gonna take out Baloo. And
both characters will get to gain 2 lore. I do like the rhyming scheme of Ink the Fred, like you said. It's great. Feel like we're on a Dr. Seuss match.
Yep. No, this is Disney.
It's like at some point we hope the mouse also takes over the cat.
Now this Robin Hood is going to pose so many issues. It's like we were talking about with Calhoun, you know, like Calhoun is so good into these aggro decks.
And still being able to keep up with lore by playing the Donald Duck and then placing another Diablo.
Ironically, maybe want the Diablo to die, right? We want to get that card draw, but getting the extra lore from the Donald Duck is very good.
And that is one thing. Ooh, a second Robin Hood.
Second Robin Hood.
A lot of people sometimes forget that Bodyguard does not mean you have to play it exerted.
Correct.
And so making sure that sometimes you keep it upright, just giving you that second option.
May have been the play there, right? Allow your Diablo to quest for 2, but don't make your Donald Duck vulnerable, because your Diablo is something that you actually want banished in order to get some extra cards.
And so now we are playing out the Maleficent and our Gathering Knowledge.
Okay. Gonna go to 8 and then probably quest to 10. Not doing too terrible. If they want it, he's gonna be, our Emerald Steel player is gonna be able to take out both of these Diablos, but it is gonna draw 2 cards from it.
And previously, to play the second Robin Hood, they did ink the Tinkerbell. And for this turn, that Tinkerbell would have cleared the entire
Tinkerbell
board.
would have been very, very good. But these bows, not great against a field of X1s, right?
I mean, if you do any damage, they're already going to be gone. So
Right.
having that, and the same with the Tamago.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing really for you to get the
Nope.
extra lore off.
Might as well just get it on board.
And so both of these Robin Hoods will go into the Diablo, both
Yep.
gaining 2 and drawing
And keeping up.
2 cards. for
Keeping
the
up with the
Amethyst
lore
player.
total. It's getting very, very close. It's the window is closing for this Amber Amethyst player, but 3 cards in hand all of a sudden. Now 3 cards in hand. 3 cards in hand all of a sudden. There is opportunity, right? They're going to go to 12 this turn, minimum. And we're actually going to play a goat, so we're going to go to 13 at the end of all of this. And 13 is not far away, especially when you have 2 additional cards.
And it's 13 now with you having a answer to at least one of the Robin Hoods.
Mm-hmm.
And currently with the hand state for our Emerald Steel player,
Mm-hmm.
it would have been very difficult for them to find cards to continue to spread out their board.
Right. We're going to ink the Sherwood Forest, and
I think we may see the Helga.
might see the
come out.
Helga. But again, none of these characters on the other side of the board really hold damage, right? So this is just increasing the clock so that as soon as the Amber Steel player can turn the corner, they're going to turn the corner very quickly. And now it's all tied up.
Well, also with the fact that you now have lethal on board.
You do.
So
2, 4, 6,
have to
7.
put the goat into the Robin Hood to keep the opponent from
Or,
winning this.
you know, the fox that we haven't seen yet. Drawing 2 from friends, digging for something. We might be able to ink, play double 1-drop, and then the goat can challenge the Robin Hood.
Which ink double play 1-drop and
Mm-hmm.
having a gathering knowledge
Mhm.
and wisdom could turn that game
Could do
around
it.
to win.
Could do it. I think there's 4 or 5 cards in the Amethyst player's hand, so I mean, like, the card quantity is there.
And even though our players don't know this, we know that that last card in the Emerald Steel player's hand is a Curse
Mm-hmm.
Mofolk. So there's nothing they would be able to take
Although,
out.
have you seen this Emerald Steel player's top decks? Like, they have
That's
been-
also true.
They've been running hot. So I think this is forced. Oh, and they're also going to get another draw from this. So, going to go 14. They're going to draw a card.
And it is a Diablo shift.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Ink the Donald Duck, and it looks like we are going to play the
Lilo.
reoccurring Lilo.
You know what? This still opens up double gathering knowledge. Still keeps that door open. But it really does need to be double gathering knowledge next turn.
So it looks like we had Ursula Deceiver, and we have played out our
We are
entire
just
hand.
Playing out our entire hand, questing to 2, 4, 5 to 18, and we just need double gathering knowledge here. And I don't think we have it. Not by the flick of that hand. That is not the flick of a hand of someone who has 4 lore in hand.
Or it's the flick of the hand of someone who is going to
Ah,
say that we didn't have it.
can quest to 16, but that's not quite enough. We have our champion of our kids store championship here at Mission Board Games.
We have had an amazing night of playing. I am so proud of
Yeah.
everyone who participated.
Absolutely. And you know, this finals was so exciting because these players are so good at both of these decks. That Emerald Steel deck is a work of art.
I really hope that at some point we're able to get these deck lists, both on the aggro side and on the Emerald Steel side. It was great, especially not seeing things like Fox.
I need to know if there's foxes in there.
I do. I am so interested in
did
how
not
this
see
deck was
any
built.
foxes.
And so it was just one of those things that we expected the
Right.
entire time. And even though making it all the way to the finals, I don't think we ever saw a single
I don't
one.
think we ever did. And, you know, and that's kind of what I was saying before, which is when you come to, you know, this tournament specifically, you don't know what you're going to get, right? We did not expect to see an Emerald Steel deck take it all down. Like, got first place, Emerald Steel, bunch of Robin Hoods, bunch of ping damage, all flying all over the place. And was so perfectly suited against their opponent that it turned out really well for them.
And much like any of our DLCs, it really is a great meta call.
Yeah,
When you
absolutely.
have those decks that just are set against certain decks and you see a plethora of them
Yeah.
throughout the tournament, it just really does make you feel good because it's not only about your deck building, but also just calling what may be
Yeah.
at the tournament.
And we did see a lot of aggro decks here today. So playing a deck that is very good at that, damage action cards, very, very, very good call.
And as we can see here, we see the Scar out as we have them for all of our top competitors. We are once again proud of everyone. We have come to the conclusion of today's broadcast, and I want to say that I am Nicholas Jackson.
I'm Matthew Orr-Bridges.
And it has been great to be here with the rest of you Illumineers, and we cannot wait to see you for our next broadcast.
Yes, absolutely. We'll see you then.
Have a good one.
Thank you so much.